Good evening, everyone. Please welcome Honorable Governor Dr. C.V. Ananda Bose. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give Governor a very loud round of applause, please. A very warm welcome to TV9 Presents Business and Economy Literature Festival 2025. It is wonderful to see such an inspiring gathering of authors, industry leaders, thinkers, policymakers, and readers coming together to celebrate ideas that shape perspectives, evolve mindsets, and paint the picture of leadership. The experience of our authors that they pen down don't just give us a peek into the era gone by, but a glimpse into the future. This festival is more than an event. It's a confluence of ideas, a platform for lived experiences, and a masterclass in storytelling, where books meet boardrooms and thoughts meet action. Over the next 2 days, we will witness conversations that challenge convention, listed to authors who provoke reflection, and derive insights that have the power to influence policy, craft, strategy, and create winners. To formally begin this cerebral journey, Mr. Barun Das, Managing Director, CEO of TV9 Network, and Honorable Governor of West Bengal are on stage. Please, let's all stand up for the national anthem. May I request everyone to please be seated. May I now request Barun Das and Amritanshu Bhattacharya to kindly felicitate the Honorable Governor. We begin this ceremony with the auspicious lamp lighting. May I request Barun Das, Honorable Governor, to please join us for lamp lighting. May I also request our distinguished guests, Professor R.P. Banerjee, leadership thinker, management educator, and author known for integrating Indian wisdom with modern leadership and management practice, to join us for the lamp lighting. May I request Amritanshu Bhattacharya, managing editor, TV9 Bangla, to also join us for lamp lighting. Harsh Neotia, Chairman, Ambuja Neotia Group, to join us for lamp lighting, please. Thank you, everyone. May I now invite Barun Das, Managing Director, CEO of TV9 Network, to deliver the opening address.
Thank you, Shweta. Honorable Governor of West Bengal, Shri Ananda Bose ji, many distinguished authors and intellectuals present here, lovers of written word, ladies and gentlemen, friends. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the first edition of TV9 Network's Business and Economy Literature Festival in Kolkata. Somebody once said, we remember, I quote, we remember what we choose and often forget what we must remember. Take Bengal, for instance. Everyone well remembers that Bengal has been the land of great thinkers, writers, poets, philosophers. It is a land that gave us Rabindranath Tagore, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, Sharat Chandra Chattopadhyay, Kazi Nazrul Islam, Bibhuti Bhushan Bandyopadhyay, Mahashweta Devi, among other great literary geniuses. No wonder Bengal still enjoys the reputation of being India's literary capital. Well, I understand it's Bengalese bias here, but let me live with it. When I was growing up, for instance, a book used to be not just a popular, but a coveted gift for every occasion. Be it as a prize for the school children, or a present for birthday, anniversary, or even wedding. It is only in Bengal that I'm told that a gift edition of certain books is also published. Ladies and gentlemen, as Bengalis, we chose to remember our literary heritage. But there's another heritage which has been lost to oblivion. I'm referring to the fact that Bengal was once India's commercial capital. Did you know, for instance, that Ram Dulal De Sarkar, whose grandmother was a house cook in a wealthy family, he was India's first intercontinental traders, doing business with several cities, including Boston, Philadelphia, or New York, in the far away of America in the 18th century. His American partners were so impressed with his enterprise that they named a ship after him, called it Ram Dalal. Dwarkanath Thakur, Rabindranath Tagore's grandfather, is considered India's first industrialist. With business spanning shipping, coal mining, and banking. Ala Mohan Das built an industrial empire in the early 20th century that manufactured machines, wagons, and web bridges, besides operating jute and cloth mills. In fact, around the time Tata Nagar was built, Ala Mohan Das also had a city named after him called Das Nagar. Between 1890 and 1950, widely considered as Bengal's Renaissance, many such Bengali companies were set up. From Bengal Chemicals and Pharmaceuticals to Bengal Tanneries to Martin Byrne to GD Pharmaceuticals, the list is rather long. Today, we gather here to celebrate modern Indian writers and writing, devoted to expanding the ideas that fuel business and economy. Here I want to state aloud once again, economic wealth creation and financial prosperity are central to human progress and human dignity itself. This was also recognized by our legendary writers. Rabindranath Tagore, for instance, championed the idea of self-sufficient villages and cooperative banks, and even set up soil labs and green banks to combat poverty in villages. Ramesh Chandra Datta, a Bengal civil servant but also an influential writer, exposed the drain of wealth theory, arguing that the British taxation system was designed to transfer India's wealth to Britain. Even Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay emphasized the importance of education for human development and free trade to end Bengal's poverty. At the risk of sounding repetitive, I've said that quite often, I must say that we Bengalis are guilty of confusing aspiration for greed. To my mind, when desire is not backed by hard work and competence, it is greed. Otherwise, it is aspiration. So money is not a bad word, contrary to what we Bengalis have been told growing up. If China today is able to stand up to the United States in a difficult trade war, it is because of its economic heft. Even India's own hard-earned seat at the global high table is due to its rapid economic growth and the fact that even today, it is the fastest growing large economy. The vision behind BELF, ladies and gentlemen, then is to orchestrate a confluence of literature and business in the hope that it will play a catalyst role in reviving Bengal's entrepreneurial DNA. It is a humble beginning, I'm sure. With the help of Bengal's industrial and political leadership, BELF can realize its aspiration of becoming world's biggest business and economy literature festival in the years to come. Because humanity, ladies and gentlemen, has always been shaped by power of ideas like fire, wheel, machines, or silicon, you name it. On that note, I thank you once again for being here with us and wish you joyful 2 days at BELF. Namaskar.
Thank you, Barun, for setting the entire order of business in motion and for your opening address. Now, the next in the order of business, since this is a literature festival and books are at the heart of this festival, they document wisdom, challenge thinking, and carry leadership lessons across generations. We are now delighted to launch the latest work by Professor Ramaprasad Banerjee. Professor Banerjee is a distinguished academic, leadership thinker, prolific author, widely recognized for pioneering ethics and values in management education. He's the chairman and director of EIILM Kolkata and founder of the EIILM Center for Leadership and Ethics, and has authored several influential books, including Mother Leadership, Vedic Economy, and to launch his new book on stage, may I request Honorable Governor and Barun Das to kindly join us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the launch of Professor Banerjee's new book, Gita for Work and Life. Let's give the new book a very loud round of applause, please. May I now request Professor Banerjee to take no more than a minute to talk about his book, since Governor has paucity of time. Yes, sir.
Honorable Governor, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, honorable guests here, good evening everybody, namaskar, namaste. Just 1 minute on Gita for Work and Life. Bhagavad Gita we know as a religious text, but it's got an immense source for principles of work and principles of living a good life. I've tried in my best, way to take it out based on my 3.5 decades of management experience and also teaching across different continents in different contexts. I hope people will like it, and I'll be very happy if one person anywhere in the world, takes one element from that and implements that in life. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Banerjee. We wish you and your book a wide readership and meaningful impact. Now, on to what we've all been waiting for. May I please invite Honorable Governor of West Bengal, Dr. C.V. Anand Bose, to deliver the inaugural address.
My young friend, Sri Barun Das, CEO and MD, distinguished writers, tycoons of industry and business, ladies and gentlemen, and friends. I'm actually in two minds, whether to impose my speech on you or spend the time listening to you. I'm really scared of the cameras in front of me. I have a reason for saying this. Now, this is a time of artificial intelligence. Once when I attended an international seminar here, they took a photograph of mine through artificial intelligence. When they showed it to me, I looked like an amalgam of Amitabh Bachchan and Shah Rukh Khan. Proudly, I showed my photograph to my wife. You know what she told me? She looked at the photograph and said, better than the original. So I'm really scared when I see the cameraman in front of me. See, the topic here itself is very new, very rare, very strange, I would say. Business, economy, and literature. But when I thought about it, I think there is an umbilical relation among the three. You know, when did business start? Where did economy start? Where did literature start? It all started in the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve were there. You know, when they plucked the fruit of the forbidden tree, inspired by Satan, what really happened was they felt a sense of shame. They were on the lookout for fig leaves to cover themselves with, which means the demand for fig leaves went up. That is economics began there. And then business. All good business comes through good advertisement, as we know. Who is the master of advertisers in the world? Satan. Satan was told, Satan knew very well, it's the fruit of the forbidden tree. So he did his marketing techniques on Eve. Even now we first impress the women, then we impress the men, isn't it? Business trick is that. And Satan was such an excellent advertiser that Eve believed it. She plucked, she ate. So business also started there, and economics started there, but literature, maybe because I'm a student of literature, I'm partial to literature, literature started much, much early. Even when, the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That is literature, words, as Hamlet says. Yes, the first book was created by God. When he said, let there be light, light there was. That is oral history. Let there be light, and light there was. You know, when we think of literature, Milton has said, a good book is a precious lifeblood of a master spirit. A good book is a precious lifeblood of a master spirit. Yes. But Bacon has said, some books are to be tasted, some to be swallowed, a few to be chewed and digested. That depends on the reader. Once you write a book, it's not your property, the writer's property. When you write on Gita, sir, it's not your property anymore. It's the reader's property. As Virginia Woolf says, it is, the common reader who decides the worth or value of literature. Now that I have released a book here, actually I should have read it before I released it. I can only cite something from the Bible. Now, by the time you have written your book, I said it's mine. In your book, you have said something like, Jada se dhruva mrityum, dhruvam janma mృతస్య ja, tasmad apariharyarthe, natvam shojidmarkase. Sir, I have a question to put to you. It is said, the body is nothing. Body is like changing the clothes. Soul is permanent. But I can touch my body. I can feel my body. I can sense my body, I can smell my body, but I cannot smell my soul, I cannot see the soul. So what does it mean? I think that Gita itself, the answer is given. Nainam chintanti shastrani, nainam dakati pavakaha, nachainam kledayanti apo, na shoshayati maridaka. That is the indestructibility of the soul. So, I think when you read a few chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, the entire secrets of the world, secrets of the universe explode on you. A simple question, you know, on Kamashetre, Gurushetre, Samaveda Yuyutsava, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, Bhimagurvata Sanjaya. It's a question like in the modern TV quiz. A simple question. Om Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveda Yuyutsava, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, Bhimagurvata Sanjaya. Sanjaya, please tell me, what are my sons and the sons of Pandu doing in the Kurukshetra? Simple question. But the answer which comes, the quintessence of anything that should be learned in the world is there. The best that has been thought and believed is all there in the Bhagavad Gita. I am sure that it is this exposition which Dr. Banerjee has given us. I will certainly read that. I am thankful to you for reminding me of Gita. Now we can come back to literature and business, literature and economy. You know, when we build for a nation, we build for future. India is a strong nation. We should assert India is strong. India is a great nation. We should assert that we are great. But we, all of us businessmen or writers or economists, we have a responsibility to the common man, the society. I remember an incident which took place when I was the somebody told me TV9 will make you drink water in public. So when I was principal secretary to the Chief Minister of Kerala, the CM said, we should have a very magnificent project for the tribals, a very momentous project. So I called the government secretaries, the district collectors, here we have the district magistrates, and the chief engineers. So many suggestions came, what project to be implemented for the benefit of the tribals. Someone suggested, the chief engineer suggested, sir, let it be a bridge because the tribals have to collect minor forest produce and sell it in the local market. They have to swim across a turbulent river, that too in the hot sun. So if a bridge is built there, if a bridge is built there, that will be beneficial for the tribals. Agreed. 10 crores was set apart for the bridge. But when the bridge was constructed finally, it became 30 crores, as it always happens in PWD everywhere. The day of the inauguration came, all the visual media is there, print media is there, chief minister is there, other ministers are there, MLAs, MPs, all are there. One of the TV persons asked the organizers, this bridge is meant for the tribals. For its inauguration, we don't see the tribal chief here. So all of us knew that tomorrow that's going to be the banner headline. So I, as a secretary, I looked sharp at the district magistrate. The district magistrate looked dirty at the Tahsildar. The Tahsildar finally got the tribal chief. True to the requirements of the visual media, the tribal chief was given a mantle and a wand. He looked like Ben-Hur out of the So he resembled Ben-Hur out of the annals of the Bible. The TV personnel asked him, Chief, this bridge is meant for the tribals. Yes. Do you like the bridge? Yeah. Do you like the bridge? I like it very much. Why do you like it so much? The tribal chief said in his simplicity, before this bridge was there, we tribals had to swim across a turbulent river in the hot sun. Now that the bridge is there, we can swim under the shade. That is a type of development which has gone around us, not by the industry, but by government servants like me. Now, we should have a win-win situation. In every business, there should be a win-win situation. The great industrialist of America, Andrew Carnegie, once he was asked how he achieved success in business and industry, he said because of his team, the staff, members of the staff, because of his workers, employees. How do you retain them with you? How do you make them happy? Andrew Carnegie said, it's very simple. Before I started this business, I was going to prospect for gold. When you prospect for gold, you will have to remove a ton of mud for a bit of gold. That is the way to handle the human resources within you. You may have to remove a ton of gold, but your aim is not a ton of mud to get some gold. About your treatment of the workers and employees also, that applies even today. You have to give the workers with you. See, there I don't know whether I'm taking more time. See, as a governor, I come for these meetings not to give you lectures, but most to listen. Today also I had the intention to listen to your lecture, but I have to go because the PM is there and I came today. Then since the helicopter could not land, I was asked to do the work for him. I had to report to him at 6 o'clock, so kindly excuse me. To learn because, you know, in one of the states, there was a rift between the chief minister and the governor, not in Bengal, certainly not in Bengal. There was a flash floods. The chief minister thought, I will go for an aerial survey. So he came to the helipad, but the captain of the helicopter, he had gone to fetch his son from the school. He's a third standard boy. When he came there, he sees the chief minister is there, the governor is there, DGP is there, the chief secretary is there. The chief minister asked the pilot, please let us go for an aerial survey, start the engine immediately. Very politely, the pilot said, sir, will you kindly give me 5 minutes? Why 5 minutes? I have to send this boy to my house and then I'll come back. Very magnanimously, the chief minister said, let him also come with us. He's a young boy, let him learn the trick of the trade. But up in the air, there was some confusion. Since the chief minister was heading a coalition government, whenever a trouble comes, the chief minister senses it very easily. CM knew something is going to happen to the helicopter, so CM took a parachute and jumped down. Then the governor jumped down, DGP jumped down, chief secretary also jumped down. And then the pilot told the son, see, now there is only one parachute left here. You please take the parachute and save yourself. But the young son said, no, Papa, there are 2 parachutes here. What do you mean? There are only 5 parachutes and 4 have jumped down. Only 1 parachute is, no, Papa, that governor uncle jumped with my school bag on his back. So I have come here to learn the difference between a school bag and a parachute, not to lecture to you on this. You know, see, moreover, I had a recent, discomfiture, which I want to place before you. See, I was a district collector some time back. In my district, there was a conclave like this. Interfaith conclave, interreligious conclave, international conclave. So many speakers were invited. Among them was Chinmayananda, who, like our Balaji, is an exponent of Bhagavad Gita. Chinmayananda's speeches on Bhagavad Gita attract a lot of crowd. I also went there, being the local collector. I thought I'll listen to his lectures and pay my respects to him. You know, when I was waiting for Chinmayananda, there was an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. The flight of Chinmayananda has been delayed by 1 hour. Second announcement, In the meantime, our district collector will talk to you. That's me. I was surprised because I had no information that I had to speak on that. When I ascended the stage, I asked the organizers, what is the topic? You know what was the topic given to me? Dialectical materialism and the essence of Indian philosophy. I didn't understand a thing about it. If you understood, please tell me later. But anyway, the announcement having been made, I started speaking of dialectical materialism and the essence of Indian philosophy. Half an hour passed. Then I got a chit. Normally when you get a chit during a speech, it means please wind up, isn't it? You know what was written in the chit? Swamiji's flight has been delayed by 1 more hour, please speak on. So 2 hours I had to speak on dialectical materialism and the essence of Indian philosophy, not knowing anything about that. This is scene number 1. Now scene number 2. So I received the UN award, Global Best Practice Award for my activities in low-cost housing. So they invited me to the United Nations special session of the General Assembly on habitat. I received the award. I was given 3 minutes to time to speak there. Happily, I was resting in my Manhattan hotel when I get a call. You know, at that time, this mobile was not very much popular. So I got a lightning call, long distance international call. An old lady was on the other end. It was very evident from her voice. She asked me, am I speaking to Dr. Bose? I said, yes, ma'am. Dr. Bose, I need your help. Please tell me, ma'am. Doctor, I am not able to sleep for the last 3 days. I need your help. So I thought she might have thought I am a medical doctor. So I thought, ma'am, I am not a medical doctor. I know everything about you. I know everything about you. Your PhD is from Pittsfield, that also I know. But I need your help. Then I asked her, ma'am, do you have hypertension, blood pressure? I have hypertension. Are you in the habit of taking sleeping pills? I am in the habit of taking sleeping pills. Then you might have forgotten to take it in the last 3 days. That's why you are not getting sleep. No. I have taken phenobarbital 500 mg. I didn't know what to say. Then I asked, ma'am, in what way can I help you? I told you, doctor, I am not able to sleep. I know that, but in what way can I help you? You remember, you made a speech last time on dialectical materialism and the essence of Indian philosophy. 1 minute after you started your speech, I started sleeping. Can you repeat it over phone once again? I don't want you to say that. And more recently, see, the governor is the chancellor of universities here, everywhere in India. So when I came here, I found many universities had not done their convocation. So I started having convocation in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, whenever I could, giving degrees to the students. At one of the convocation addresses, which lasted for an hour because people encouraged me, clapping and laughing. So I kept on speaking, 1 hour. At the end of it, I told the students, we need educational reform, we need industrial reform, we need agricultural reform, we need social reform. A student told me from the audience, but you need some chloroform. Before we say that, wish you the very best. With your leave, I declare this inaugurated. Thank you.
Honorable Governor, thank you very much for your sense of humor, your inspiring words, and for gracing this festival with your presence. And before we move on, ladies and gentlemen, may I once again request you all to stand up for National Anthem, please. Everyone, please give a loud applause to Honorable Governor for gracing this festival and for his precious time. May I request you all to please be seated, and as we kickstart the Business and Economy Literature Festival, may I now invite Ajay Bandyopadhyay, convener of the Business and Economy Literature Festival 2025, to share his thoughts as part of the opening address.
Thank you, Shweta. Distinguished guests, eminent authors, partners and collaborators, members of the media, and friends. Good evening and a warm welcome to you all to Business and Economy Literature Festival 2025. It's a privilege to host the Business and Economy Literature Festival in the city of Kolkata, the city that shaped India's intellectual, economic, and cultural imagination over centuries. Excuse me. Thank you. This festival is born out of a simple but powerful belief that the most meaningful conversations about economy, policy, leadership, and innovation cannot remain confined only to the boardrooms, business events, and the breaking news. They must also live in books, essays, long-form journalism, memoirs, and thoughtful discussions. In the recent years, we have seen an extraordinary churn in the global business environment, driven by technological disruptions, geopolitical shifts, climate change, diversity, inclusions, and many different forms of ethical and the moral dilemma. BELF seeks to create an idea platform where practitioners and scholars, doers and thinkers engage in deeper and enduring conversations around these critical shifts in the world economy. It tends to build bridges between diverse stakeholders, authors, CEOs, journalists, policymakers, academicians, entrepreneurs, and the seasoned leaders. It recognizes that economy is not an abstract construct. It is lived, experienced, written about, and debated in an intellectually liberated environment. Again, this festival is not just about celebrating successes. It is also about listening to the journeys and experiences, failures, dilemmas, trade-offs, and life lessons of all those who have challenged the status quo and who have traveled the uncertain path. It is about understanding how leaders and entrepreneurs think, how institutions evolve, how economies transition, and how ideas influence decisions that affect lives and livelihood of the citizens. For every idea to flourish, we need a mentor and a patron. We are immensely thankful to Mr. Barun Das, Managing Director and CEO TV9, who recognized the potential of BELF as an uniquely niche, interesting, and scalable proposition. It was his guidance and patronage, along with the unstinted support of the entire TV9 team, that led the idea of BELF to fruition. We are also thankful to Penguin Random House, India's leading publication house, and our knowledge partner, Mr. Swati Chakraborty, founder of Storynest Communication, the concept and curation partner, for providing the much-needed shape and structure to the event and ensuring that we invite some of India's best intellectual minds of the business and economy world to BELF 2025. My sincere thanks also go to Bengal Chamber of Commerce, as well as Mr. Ambarish Dasgupta, who was the advisor on many aspects of designing this program, and he himself is a past president of Bengal Chamber of Commerce. Last but not the least, we greatly acknowledge the support from EIILM Kolkata, the presenting sponsor, and all other sponsors who helped us translate the vision of this ambition event into reality. Today and tomorrow, you will be hearing stimulating conversations that cut across corporate leadership, economic policy, markets, entrepreneurship, ethics, and society. I encourage you all to listen actively, question openly, and engage generously with the speakers and with one another. The true value of a literature festival lies not only on the dais, but also off the dais, in formal and informal exchanges, thereby building a community of business and economy book lovers and the book readers. And that is the whole objective of BELF, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you for being here, for supporting these initiatives, and also for believing that in this world, the idea still matters. I wish you all an enriching and inspiring festival. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay, for steering this festival with clarity and passion. And let me quickly bring up our sponsors who are responsible for the fruition of the Business and Economy Literature Festival. Our presenting sponsor, EIILM Kolkata, curation and ideation partner, Storynest, our knowledge partner, Penguin, our associate sponsors, Bama Lorry, ChatGPT, Alliance Broadband, UEM, Priyo Gopal Bishnoi, Mukhora Chop, Tata Structura, and De Beers. Our partner, Policy Bazaar, our print partner, Barthaman, our writing partner, Parker, our media partner, Business Standard, and industry partner, BCCI. And next, in the order of business, is a special address by Arun Myra, From Boardrooms to Bookshelf, A Journey of Life. Our next session features a luminary whose journey spans corporate leadership, institution building, and deep public reflection. Arun Myra is a veteran business management consultant, a public policy thinker, former member of the Planning Commission of India. He spent about 25 years with Tata Group, including serving on the board of Tata Motors, and later held senior leadership roles internationally, notably as the chairman of the Boston Consulting Group. He's the author of Remaking India, Shaping the Future and Reimagining India's Economy, which shares a glimpse of life shaped equally by boardroom decisions as by philosophical inquiry. Please join me in welcoming Arun Myra to the stage, please.
Gopal, can you hear me? My coach. So you know now who is the speaker that you want to hear. He'll be shortly with you, and thank you, Gopal, for teaching me. I want to thank Swati Ajaya, Barun, for bringing me here to be able to share with you my thoughts, my philosophy, as was said, about the future of our country. I was born on the 15th of August in 1943. 4 years later, to the day, 15th August 1947, India became free. My family became refugees. My father had to abandon his business in Lahore and our family home, and we came as refugees and were given refuge in Delhi. In January 1948, my mother took me to Gandhiji's prayer meeting, and there Gandhiji at the end of the meeting would gather the little children, I was 4, and touch their heads to bless them. And so my head was touched by Mahatma Gandhi. And my mother kept reminding me through my life, but starting then, that I have joined the journey of India towards its tryst with destiny, towards Gandhiji's vision of Purna Swaraj, of equal freedoms, political, social, and economic freedoms for all the citizens of this new India into which my family had come. Well, my father wasn't earning much that time, couldn't earn. So I got Government of India scholarships to go to a public school, and then a Government of India scholarship to go to St. Stephen's College in Delhi and to study a master's in physics. But Gandhiji's blessing and the vision was with me in my heart and my mind, and I had to serve the country. In those days, in the early 1960s, the only way that people who did well, young people who did well, or were recognized as doing well, felt they could serve the country was to join the civil services. Joining a business organization, even the multinationals, the few that were here at that time in a very small way, and certainly not the businesses of Calcutta at the time, was not felt to be a, if I might say, a noble enterprise. It was about making money for yourselves and not about serving the people of the country. So I had no ambition at all to serve a business enterprise, even though I might earn more. However, as fate has its ways and there are turns in the road, Tatas had started a Tata Administrative Service, and they asked the principal of St. Stephen's College, one of the most eminent college in India at the time, could he recommend any young Indian who had the potential to join Tatas and to serve India. And the principal said to me, well, you're not yet able to sit for your civil service exam having done your master's because you're too young. In this year, why don't you take the journey to Bombay and meet with the directors of Tatas? So I did. I was really impressed. The 3 days that they spent just listening to me, listening to others, inquiring, this was different. This was not what I felt. Business people did listen to others and care for common people's feelings. They asked me at the end, what did I want to do in life? Well, I didn't want to say that my next step is actually to join the IAS or IFS, which the principal had told them. They said, we know you want to serve the country, and you have the impression that business doesn't serve the nation. We Tatas, we only work for India. They told me that Mahatma Gandhi had said that while he was fighting for India's political freedom, before him, Jamshedji Tata had been fighting for India's economic freedom, building industries in India. When the British discouraged it, came in the way of it, and yet karke dikhana hai, we Indians can do it as well as you Britishers can. That's the story of Tatas, they said. Come and work with us we also are building India. So that was my first turn in the road away from government and serving India towards the private sector, to Tatas, to serve India. I spent 25 glorious years with Tatas, a large number of those in Pune, outside Pune, building a learning factory under the guidance of Sumant Mulgaonkar, the vice chairman of the Tata Group at the time. G.R.D. Tata was chairman, where young Indians, very young Indians, in 17 years, 18 years old, learning the craft of engineering, working, skilled work, and young Indians coming out of our new IITs, there were no IIMs at the time, learning to be young managers of an engineering enterprise. The average age of all of us, for the workers was 25, for the managers, engineers was 30. We were learning to do what we had not done before, and perhaps no one had done in India before, in the engineering industry. We designed trucks in India by Indians, tested them in India on our facilities. We built the machines in India, in our factories and elsewhere, to build the trucks to those designs. And those India-made trucks and buses, made by Indians in India, were exported in the early 1980s, by the early 1980s, to 50 countries elsewhere in the world, in competition with the Germans, the Americans, the British, and even the emerging Japanese. And we did quite well. This was before enlightening of the Indian economy, the liberalization, the opening up of 1991. This is 5-10 years before that. Also, around that same time, we set up a joint venture in Malaysia to teach the Malaysians how to assemble trucks and buses and to sell and service them in Malaysia, in competition there with the Japanese, who were also setting up enterprises in Malaysia to produce their cars, trucks and buses. In the 2 years that I was in Malaysia as the CEO of the Tata enterprise there, we were able to, young Indians, old Indians, 5 of us, with the local people, Chinese and Malaysians, beat the Japanese, the Germans, the British, and the Americans at their game. We sold, within 2 years, more trucks and buses than any other enterprise, and at prices higher than the Japanese. When I was to leave the country 2 years later, the managing director of Toyota, who'd been in in Malaysia, building his enterprise with his Japanese expatriates with him, invited me graciously for a farewell in his office, at which in the office he had these 17, 18 Japanese managers, all dressed in similar uniforms, and I came with my 4 Indian colleagues there for my farewell, and he said, "Maira-san," gracious, all stood up and bowed, "only 5 of you have come. Where are the other Indians?" I said, "There are only 5 of us here." At this time, he bowed, and all his other colleagues also got up and bowed. They wondered what he was doing. He said, "Maira-san, 1 Indian equal to 5 Japanese. We have it." My second major turn in the road came while I was in Tata's after 25 years there, when some family circumstances, health issues, required me to be in the United States for a prolonged treatment of my daughter. And how would I support myself and the family while I was there? Those days, I'm talking of the 1980s, there was no foreign exchange that Tatas could send to support me and my family and my health issues over there. I had to go and earn it myself. And G.R.D. Tata said to me, because I was nirash, here I was 38 years old. At 38, I'd become the youngest director of the Tata Group. I mean, the whole world was there before me. And he called me into his office and he said, "Myra, your daughter has only one father. She needs you now. Go we'll find another Myra, many Myras. We'll continue to build India. Go there. Join a consulting company, because no large enterprise in America is going to employ an Indian manager to work at a senior level with them. Don't demean yourself. Go and work as a consultant. Teach them what you have learned in India, how to work with people and transform the ability of an enterprise, and learn from them. When you come back, you'll be very valuable to us in Tatas and to India, having learned now how the biggest American companies and European companies scale up and produce efficiency. I came back in 10 years, in 2000, when India was shining. And I heard in India a new sound, which I had not heard when I left 10 years before. It was a knocking on the window. I was back in Bombay, driving now an air-conditioned car with windows, and many people, everybody seemed to be having air-conditioned cars, Japanese-made, Korean-made, even European-made, small cars, air-conditioned. I had been in Bombay before, at the same traffic crossings, and beggars would be putting their hands in through the car windows, touching us, and you'd either try to push them away, or you had to give them something to make them leave you alone. Now, everyone in the cars was ignoring those beggars outside because the windows were up, it was air-conditioned and cool inside, sometimes there was music playing, and they had to knock harder and harder and say, "We are still here. We are still here. Life has gone well for you. What about us?" I spent another 10 years in India as the chair of the Boston Consulting Group, and I voluntarily retired when I was 65. I had been 25 years an executive with Tatas, 20 years as a consultant internationally, and then in India. It was time, I told my wife at 65, for a long holiday together. And we went off to Europe, and the morning we arrived in Europe, I got a call from the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister came on the phone. I happened to be standing in a tram. There was no seat for me. My wife was seated there, crowded in the tram in Prague. And this voice came quietly, Dr. Manmohan Singh's voice. He said, "Mr. Maina," I said, "Sir." He said, "Will you join me in the Planning Commission as a member and serve the country?" I said, "Yes, sir." I had wanted to do that when I left college. I thought the real way to serve the people of the country is to be a servant of the people. And I told my wife, and she was very upset. Who were you saying yes, sir, and accepting something from without consulting her? But we came back. We came back. So that was my third turn in my life, unexpected, into the Planning Commission and into the government, at last to serve the people of India. I told the Prime Minister, Manmohan Singh, Dr. Manmohan Singh, when I came back and asked him, I said, "Sir, I think you made a mistake. I'm not an economist." He said, "Arun, I know you're not. You're a systems thinker, an institutional reformer." And he pulled out my book, Transforming Capitalism, Business Leadership to Improve the World for Everyone, which he had there right next to him. I had given him the first copy of that book when it was published the year before in Vigyan Bhavan at the CII's annual partnership, meeting, right on stage, the first copy. It was a great honor, 1 minute up on stage with him, to give it to him. And he had it with him. He said, "I know you. I know your ideas. I want you to come and work with me as a member of this Planning Commission to answer this question. Why is it that we in India, with the best economists, including myself," he said humbly, people say I'm a great economist, and we've got many others in the Planning Commission elsewhere, yet we have not been able to make the growth inclusive. People's incomes are not rising as fast as they would want them to and as fast as they should. Yes, poverty is declining, but not fast enough. Employment is not being created. The employment elasticity of the Indian economy then was very low. We were creating the least number of jobs per unit of GDP growth compared to all other large economies. And that situation continues today. The government changed in 2014, the Planning Commission became the Niti Aayog, but it was the same growth strategy, more GDP, the same pattern of growth. Now, economists have calculated that for India to produce with this pattern of growth adequate jobs, decent jobs for all India's people, we need a GDP growth of 12% per year. And we are saying, oh, 8%. This pattern of growth is not inclusive. And as Dr. Manmohan Singh said, economists have learned how to grow the GDP. They haven't learned how to make inclusion happen at the same time. The time has come, friends, to reimagine the Indian economy and to adopt a more different and more inclusive and more environmentally sustainable approach to economic growth. And this is what finally I put down in this book, Reimagining India's Economy, The Road to a More Equitable Society. It's what I've learned in my 82 years, well, 82 minus 4, when we came over, years of my life, working in different spheres and different careers, about my country and why we are not getting it right, if I might say. So GDP is growing. It is the fastest growing, once again, economy in the world. But it's not enough. It's not right. I've learned 2 lessons in my journey through these 3 careers in business, in consulting, and then in public service. 1, the necessity of learning in every walk of life, deep learning. 2, the necessity of listening, deep listening, especially to people not like yourself. Learning is the only source of competitive advantage for a business or a nation today. Always was, but even more so today, when new competition can come into your industry from other industries, into the media from the technology industry, into financial systems from the technology industry, into automobiles from Elon Musk's non-automobile technologies. This is VUCA, as we say. The only sustainable source of competitive advantage one has is to learn faster than everybody else, anywhere else, to be the fastest learner in the world. Japan, after the Second World War, when the US bombed with nuclear bombs it into submission, by the way, the United States is the only country that's ever dropped a nuclear bomb on a civilian population, and yet is trying to prevent others, because they feel, like us, we are less civilized, that we can't be trusted with a nuclear bomb or nuclear energy even. But Japan, after that, built up the strength of Japan and of its industries till Japan became the world beater in chemicals, in shipbuilding, in automobiles, in electronic goods. It was Japan. What made Japan catch up with and beat the Americans and the Europeans, and so fast? It's because Japan built on the only asset that it had. It didn't have iron ore, it didn't have any of the raw materials, nor energy sources. It had people. It used its people, their intelligence and their energy, to build world-beating enterprises. India and China were comparable in the sizes of our economies and industries in the 1980s. Now, China's economy is 7 times, 6 times larger than ours. Its capital goods producing industry, which is the depth of knowledge in industry, is 50 to 55 times larger than us. In the 1980s, we were also producing computer hardware, and so was China. Ours was better than theirs. Today, China's become the producer and supplier of not just computer hardware to the whole world, but even artificial intelligence is catching up, and software. Human beings are the only appreciating assets that a business has. We show human beings in the profit and loss account as resources to be used, and when used, discarded. We put in our balance sheet our assets, our buildings and our machinery, And we keep them because we can get more value and life out of them. But human beings, used, misused, abused, and away. We must show human beings as assets, account for them as assets. And one more thing, all assets depreciate, and you have to put depreciation as a charge to your accounts. The only asset that can appreciate its own value, if it's motivated to and enabled to, is the human being. This was the Japanese insight. And the human being will also improve the productivity of your machines and your space and your materials and your finance. Friends, India's competitive advantage is the large number of employable human beings. They're not being decently engaged and employed in building this enterprise of India. Every country, every business must build its technology, its strategy on the resource that it has greater access to than others have. So, the Middle Eastern countries have built their great economic growth on the use of petroleum resources, gas resources. Chemical technology in SABIC in Saudi Arabia is the use of a resource that they have more of than anybody else. What is the resource that we have more of than everywhere else in the world? Young, employable, and even now older employable people. Our technology, our business strategies must be based on the use of more human beings as our assets, rather than discarding these human beings and putting machines in their place and artificial intelligence in their place. Personal lesson. When you stop learning, you will stop living. My mother passed away at 97, 98. When she was 90, and she was quite fragile physically, the three brothers, we wished her to slow down and be taken care of with others around her. And she said, no, you are trying to add more years to my life. I want to add more life to my years. And when I stop with curiosity learning, I'm no longer living. So that was a lesson that she left for me then, when she was 90 and I was still in my 1965. Keep learning after you retire. Learn new things. Learn from people that you previously would not have had time for. I joined the Planning Commission, like I mentioned to you, in 2009. And when I joined the Planning Commission, my grandson, Viren, who was 7 years old in the United States, he's born there, my son's there, and he'd come to India every year he'd come, or every 2 years, and he came, he was 7 this time, and I was driving him through New Delhi, Luton's Delhi, as before, and he suddenly exploded, this 7-year-old. He says, what's the government doing? Counting daisies? So I said, Viren, what do you mean counting daisies? He said, look at all the poor people outside Nizamuddin. Look at all those poor people, they're even more than they are before. Doesn't the government see them? So I was embarrassed, because I just joined the Planning Commission. I said, Viren, I'm now government. He looked at me, he said, you strange person. I'm supposed to be a fun guy. So I thought I'd educate my son on the government. But what struck me was, we in the Planning Commission 2009 were pointing out to the country with the Tendulkar poverty line and reframing the poverty line that indeed poverty had reduced in India from independence time, and yes, since 1991 it had continued to reduce. But he said, it's not enough. Just look at this on the outside. So I brought Viren to the Planning Commission and I showed him what the government was. A young 7-year-old, all he could see was big offices and big people and a lot of chaprasis running around giving me things. And he went back to the United States and he wrote a book. Gopal, that was his first book at 7. So by the time he's your and my age, I don't know how many books he might write if he's inclined to do it. By the way, Gopal and I have a race and he's beaten me long ago. He's written 21 books. I'm still getting to maybe 13 or 14, 12 or 13 actually. But Gopal, I'm not running a race with you. I concede. Please go on. Please go on. But Viren's book on the Planning Commission ended with a picture of a very poor man, stick man, bowing before a big man sitting behind a desk. And he wrote there, the subject of the book was the Planning Commission of India. And this last page, he said, the planning community is a place where all the poor people of India can come, and there'll be someone there to listen to them, and then they will not be poor anymore. That struck me. If you listen to somebody with respect, you give them dignity. And what the poor lack most of all is dignity and respect. That struck me. But then they won't be poor anymore. But more important than that, the scientific part. In a complex system, you can know the whole system only by looking into the system from different perspectives, like the blind man around the elephant. You have to have many perspectives to understand the whole system. And for planning a country, which is a very complex system with an environment and a society and an economy, you must get many diverse perspectives and listen, not just to the numbers as planners do, but to the realities through real people, through their perspectives and through their eyes. So for an economist, the environment and society are just resources to be used to grow the economy. The environment is useful, the forest is useful only to the extent of the number of timber producing trees it has. The rest of the stuff around the forest comes in the way of efficient access and harvesting of the timber. Similarly, in society, the only useful resource for an economy or a business is the labor and the intelligence of human beings. The rest of the human being is a nuisance, actually. It's a nuisance. So please, let's think about it. The ideas that we have about what an economy is and the pursuit of the growth of the size of the economy are destroying the quality of our society as well as the sustainability of our environment. We must listen to all sides of a complex system, to all points of view, to all disciplines to understand how the systems work. The future of India, the beauty of India lies in its diversity. It is India's strength. We must, friends, especially in India, learn to listen to people not like us. And I'd like to, with your permission, I was told by Varun Ajay that, look, this is not an academic meeting. This is not about formal economics or business management. It's a literary meeting. So say something poetic or philosophical. So I'll read to you my poem on listening. It is time, remember the times we are in. We don't listen to anyone actually because we are busy watching our phones and little videos and getting in contamination of the mind. It's time to press the pause button, put our smartphones on silent, shut out the tweets, trolls and sound bites, and stop the windmills in our minds. It is time to listen to the whispers in the trees, to the caring in our hearts, and most of all, to the voices of people not like us. Then we will learn and find solutions for living together on our shared earth. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing a journey rich in wisdom and humanity. I request you to please come back on the stage. May I now request Arun Myra, please come back on stage if you can. May I request Ajay Bandopadhyay, convener, BELF, to kindly felicitate Mr. Myra. Thank you. Round of applause, please. And now, before we begin our next session, that is Duologue on stage, we will take a quick 5-minute break to set up And we'll meet you after 5 minutes. Thank you.
Three, four, five, six. Hello, check 1, 2, 3, 4.
My young friend, Sri Barun Das, CEO and MD, distinguished writers, icons of industry and business, ladies and gentlemen, and friends. I'm actually in two minds, whether to impose my speech on you or spend the time listening to you. I'm really scared of the cameras in front of me. I have a reason for saying this. Now, this is the time of artificial intelligence. Once when I attended an international seminar here, they took a photograph of mine through artificial intelligence. When they showed it to me, I looked like an amalgam of Amitabh Bachchan and Shah Rukh Khan. Proudly, I showed my photograph to my wife. You know what she told me? She looked at the photograph and said, better than the original. So I'm really scared when I see the cameraman in front of me. See, the topic here itself is very new, very rare, very strange, I would say. Business, economy, and literature. But when I thought about it, I think there is an umbilical relation among the three. You know, when did business start? Where did economy start? Where did literature start? It all started in the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve were there. You know, when they plucked the fruit of the forbidden tree, inspired by Satan, what really happened was they felt a sense of shame. They are on the lookout for fig leaves to cover themselves with, which means the demand for fig leaves went up. That is economics began there. And then business. All good business comes through good advertisement, as we know. Who is the master of advertisers in the world? Satan. Satan was told, Satan knew very well, it's the fruit of the forbidden tree. So he did his marketing techniques on Eve. Even now we first impress the women, then we impress the men, isn't it? Business trick is that. And Satan was such an excellent advertiser that Eve believed it. She plucked, she ate. So business also started there, and economics started there. But literature, maybe because I'm a student of literature, I'm partial to literature. Literature started much, much early. Even when, the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That is literature. Words, as Hamlet says. Yes, the first book was created by God. When he said, let there be light, light there was. That is oral history. Let there be light, and light there was. You know, when we think of literature, Milton has said, a good book is a precious lifeblood of a master spirit. A good book is a precious lifeblood of a master spirit. Yes. But Bacon has said, Some books are to be tasted, some to be swallowed, a few to be chewed and digested. That depends on the reader. Once you write a book, it's not your property, the writer's property. When you write on Gita, sir, it's not your property anymore. It's the reader's property. As Virginia Woolf says, it is, the common reader who decides the worth of value of literature. Now that I have released a book here, actually I should have read it before I released it. I can only cite something from the Bible. Now, by the time you have written your book, I said it's mine. In your book, you have said something like, Jada sehi dhruva mrityum, dhruvam janma mridasya ja, tasmad apariharyarthe, natvam shojid markase. Sir, I have a question to put to you. It is said, the body is nothing. Body is like changing the clothes. Soul is permanent. But I can touch my body. I can feel my body. I can sense my body. I can smell my body. But I cannot smell my soul. I cannot see the soul. So what does it mean? I think that Gita itself, the answer is given. Nainam chintanti shastrani. Nainam dakati pavakaha. Nachainam kledayanti apo. Na shoshayati maridaka. That is the indestructibility of the soul. So, I think when you read a few chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, the entire secrets of the world, secrets of the universe explode on you. A simple question. On Kamashetre, Kurushetre, Samaveda Yuyutsava, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, Himagurvata Sanjaya. It's a question like in the modern TV quiz. A simple question. Om Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveda Yuyutsava, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, Himagurvata Sanjaya. Sanjaya, please tell me, what are my sons and the sons of Pandu doing in the Kurukshetra? Simple question. But the answer which comes, the quintessence of anything that should be learned in the world is there. The best that has been thought and believed is all there in the Bhagavad Gita. I am sure that it is this exposition which Dr. Banerjee has given us. I will certainly read that. I am thankful to you for reminding me of Gita. Now we can come back to literature and business, literature and economy. When we build for a nation, we build for future. India is a strong nation. We should assert India is strong. India is a great nation. We should assert that we are great. But we, all of us businessmen or writers or economists, we have a responsibility to the common man, the society. I remember an incident which took place when I was the Somebody told me TV9 will make you drink water in public. So when I was principal secretary to the Chief Minister of Kerala, the CM said, we should have a very magnificent project for the tribals, a very momentous project. So I called the government secretaries, the district collectors, here we have the district magistrates, and the chief engineers. So many suggestions came, what project to be implemented for the benefit of the tribals. Someone suggested, the chief engineer suggested, sir, let it be a bridge because the tribals have to collect minor forest produce and sell it in the local market. They have to swim across a turbulent river, that too in the hot sun. So if a bridge is built there, if a bridge is built there, that will be beneficial for the tribals. Agreed. 10 crores was set apart for the bridge. But when the bridge was constructed finally, it became 30 crores, as it always happens in PWD everywhere. The day of the inauguration came, all the visual media is there, print media is there, chief minister is there, other ministers are there, MLAs, MPs, all are there. One of the TV persons asked the organizers, this bridge is meant for the tribals. For its inauguration, we don't see the tribal chief here. So all of us knew that tomorrow that's going to be the banner headline. So I, as a secretary, I looked sharp at the district magistrate. The district magistrate looked dirty at the tahsildar. The tahsildar finally got the tribal chief. true to the requirements of the visual media. The tribal chief was given a mantle and a wand. He looked like Ben Hur out of the So he resembled Ben Hur out of the annals of the Bible. The TV personnel asked him, Chief, this bridge is meant for the tribals. Yes. Do you like the bridge? Yeah. Do you like the bridge? I like it very much. Why do you like it so much? The tribal chief said in his simplicity, before this bridge was there, we tribals had to swim across a turbulent river in the hot sun. Now that the bridge is there, we can swim under the shade. That is a type of development which has gone around us, not by the industry, but by government servants like me. Now, we should have a win-win situation. In every business, there should be a win-win situation. The great industrialist of America, Andrew Carnegie, once he was asked how he achieved success in business and industry, he said because of his team, the staff, members of the staff, because of his workers, employees. How do you retain them with you? How do you make them happy? Andrew Carnegie said, it's very simple. Before I started this business, I was going to prospect for gold. When you prospect for gold, you will have to remove a ton of mud for a bit of gold. That is the way to handle the human resources within you. You may have to remove a ton of gold, but your aim is not a ton of mud to get some gold. About your treatment of the workers and the employees also, that applies even today. You have to keep the workers with you. See, there I don't know whether I'm taking more time. See, as a governor, I come for these meetings not to give you lectures, but most to listen. Today also I had the intention to listen to your lecture, but I have to go because the PM is there and I came today. Then since the helicopter could not land, I was asked to do the work for him. I had to report to him at 6 o'clock, so kindly excuse me. To learn because, in one of the states, there was a rift between the chief minister and the governor, not in Bengal, certainly not in Bengal. There was a flash floods. The chief minister thought, I will go for an aerial survey. So he came to the helipad, but the captain of the helicopter, he had gone to fetch his son from the school. He's a third standard boy. When he came there, he sees the chief minister is there, the governor is there, DGP is there, the chief secretary is there. The chief minister asked the pilot, please let us go for an aerial survey, start the engine immediately. Very politely, the pilot said, sir, will you kindly give me 5 minutes? Why 5 minutes? I have to send this boy to my house and then I'll come back. Very magnanimously, the chief minister said, let him also come with us. He's a young boy, let him learn the trick of the trade. But up in the air, there was some confusion. Since the chief minister was heading a coalition government, whenever a trouble comes, the chief minister senses it very easily. CM knew something is going to happen to the helicopter, so CM took a parachute and jumped down. Then the governor jumped down, DGP jumped down, chief secretary also jumped down. And then the pilot told his son, see, now there is only one parachute left here. You please take the parachute and save yourself. But the young son said, no, Papa, there are 2 parachutes here. What do you mean? There are only 5 parachutes and 4 have jumped down. Only 1 parachute is, no, Papa, that governor uncle jumped with my school bag on his back. So I have come here to learn the difference between a school bag and a parachute, not to lecture to you on this. See, moreover, I had a recent, discomfiture, which I want to place before you. See, I was a district collector some time back. In my district, there was a conclave like this. Interfaith conclave, interfaith, interreligious conclave, international conclave. So many speakers were invited. Among them was Chinmayananda, who, like our Balaji, is an exponent of Bhagavad Gita. Chinmayananda's speeches on Bhagavad Gita attract a lot of crowd. I also went there being the local collector. I thought I'll listen to his lectures and pay my respects to him. You know, when I was waiting for Chinmayananda, there was an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. The flight of Chanmayananda has been delayed by 1 hour. Second announcement. In the meantime, our district collector will talk to you. That's me. I was surprised because I had no information that I had to speak on that. When I ascended the stage, I asked the organizers, what is the topic? You know what was the topic given to me? Dialectical materialism and the essence of Indian philosophy. I didn't understand a thing about it. If you understood, please tell me later. But anyway, the announcement having been made, I started speaking of dialectical materialism and the essence of Indian philosophy. Half an hour passed. Then I got a chit. Normally when you get a chit during a speech, it means please wind up, isn't it? You know what was written in the chit? Swamiji's flight has been delayed by 1 more hour, please speak on. So 2 hours I had to speak on dialectical materialism and the essence of Indian philosophy, not knowing anything about that. This is scene number 1. Now scene number 2. So I received the UN award, Global Best Practice Award for my activities in low-cost housing. So they invited me to the United Nations special session of the General Assembly on habitat. I received the award. I was given 3 minutes time to speak there. Happily, I was resting in my Manhattan hotel. When I get a call, at that time this mobile was not very much popular. So I got a lightning call, long distance international call. An old lady was on the other end. It was very evident from her voice. She asked me, am I speaking to Dr. Bose? I said, yes, ma'am. Dr. Bose, I need your help. Please tell me, ma'am. Doctor, I am not able to sleep for the last 3 days. I need your help. So I thought she might have thought I am a medical doctor. So I said, ma'am, I am not a medical doctor. I know everything about you. I know everything about you. Your PhD is from Whitspillani. That also I know. But I need your help. Then I asked her, ma'am, do you have hypertension, blood pressure? I have hypertension. Are you in the habit of taking sleeping pills? I am in the habit of taking sleeping pills. Then you might have forgotten to take it in the last 3 days. That's why you are not getting sleep. No. I have taken phenobarbital 500 mg. I didn't know what to say. Then I asked, ma'am, in what way can I help you? I told you, doctor, I am not able to sleep. I know that, but in what way can I help you? You remember, you made a speech last time on dialectical materialism and the essence of Indian philosophy. 1 minute after you started your speech, I started sleeping. Can you repeat it over phone once again? I don't want you to say that. And more recently, see, the governor is the chancellor of universities here, everywhere in India. So when I came here, I found many universities had not done their convocation. So I started having convocation in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, whenever I could, giving degrees to the students. At one of the convocation addresses, which lasted for an hour because people encouraged me, clapping and laughing. So I kept on speaking, 1 hour. At the end of it, I told the students, we need educational reform, we need industrial reform, we need agricultural reform, we need social reform. A student told me from the audience, but you need some chloroform. Before we say that, wish you the very best. With your leave, I declare this inaugurated. Thank you. My young friend, Sri Barun Das, CEO and MD, distinguished writers, tycoons of industry and business, ladies and gentlemen, and friends. I'm actually in two minds, whether to impose my speech on you or spend the time listening to you. I'm really scared of the cameras in front of me. I have a reason for saying this. Now, this is the time of artificial intelligence. Once when I attended an international seminar here, they took a photograph of mine through artificial intelligence. When they showed it to me, I looked like an amalgam of Amitabh Bachchan and Shah Rukh Khan. Proudly, I showed my photograph to my wife. You know what she told me? She looked at the photograph and said, better than the original. So I'm really scared when I see the cameraman in front of me. See, the topic here itself is very new, very rare, very strange, I would say. Business, economy, and literature. But when I thought about it, I think there is an umbilical relation among the three. You know, when did business start? Where did economy start? Where did literature start? It all started in the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve were there. You know, when they plucked the fruit of the forbidden tree, inspired by Satan, what really happened was they felt a sense of shame. They are on the lookout for fig leaves to cover themselves with, which means the demand for fig leaves went up. That is economics began there. And then business. All good business comes through good advertisement, as we know. Who is the master of advertisers in the world? Satan. Satan was told, Satan knew very well, it's the fruit of the forbidden tree. So he did his marketing techniques on Eve. Even now we first impress the women, then we impress the men, isn't it? Business trick is that. And Satan was such an excellent advertiser that Eve believed it. She plucked, she ate. So business also started there and economics started there. But literature, maybe because I'm a student of literature, I'm partial to literature. Literature started much, much early. Even when, the Bible says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That is literature, words, as Hamlet says. Yes, the first book was created by God. When he said, let there be light, light there was. That is oral history. Let there be light and light there was. You know, when we think of literature, Milton has said, a good book is a precious lifeblood of a master spirit. A good book is a precious lifeblood of a master spirit. Yes. But Bacon has said, some books are to be tasted, some to be swallowed, a few to be chewed and digested. That depends on the reader. Once you write a book, it's not your property, the writer's property. When you write on Gita, sir, it's not your property anymore. It's the reader's property. As Virginia Woolf says, it is, the common reader who decides the worth of value of literature. Now that I have released a book here, actually I should have read it before I released it. I can only cite something from the Bible. Now, by the time you are written your book, I said it's mine. In your book, you have said something like, Jada sehi dhruva or mrityum, dhruvam janma mridasya ja, tasmad apariharyarthe, natvam shojit markase. Sir, I have a question to put to you. It is said, the body is nothing. Body is like changing the clothes. Soul is permanent. But I can touch my body. I can feel my body. I can sense my body. I can smell my body. But I cannot smell my soul. I cannot see the soul. So what does it mean? I think that Gita itself, the answer is given. Nainam chintanti shastrani. Nainam dakati pavakaha. Nachainam kledayanti apo. Na shoshayati mairadaha. That is the indestructibility of the soul. So, I think when you read a few chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, the entire secrets of the world, secrets of the universe explode on you. A simple question. On Kamashetre, Kurushetre, Samaveda Yuyutsava, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, Himagurvata Sanjaya. It's a question like in the modern TV quiz. A simple question. Om Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveda Yuyutsava, Mamaka Pandavaschaiva, Himagurvata Sanjaya. Sanjaya, please tell me, what are my sons and the sons of Pandu doing in the Kurukshetra? Simple question. But the answer which comes, the quintessence of anything that should be learned in the world is there. The best that has been thought and believed is all there in the Bhagavad Gita. I am sure that it is this exposition which Dr. Banerjee has given us. I will certainly read that. I am thankful to you for reminding me of Gita. Now we can come back to literature and business, literature and economy. You know, when we build for a nation, we build for future. India is a strong nation. We should assert India is strong. India is a great nation. We should assert that we are great. But we, all of us businessmen or writers or economists, we have a responsibility to the common man, the society. I remember an incident which took place when I was the somebody told me TV9 will make you drink water in public. So when I was a principal secretary to the Chief Minister of Kerala, the CM said, we should have a very magnificent project for the tribals, a very momentous project. So I called the government secretaries, the district collectors, here we have the district magistrates, and the chief engineers. So many suggestions came, what project to be implemented for the benefit of the tribals. Someone suggested, the chief engineer suggested, sir, let it be a bridge because the tribals have to collect minor forest produce and sell it in the local market. They have to swim across a turbulent river, that too in the hot sun. So if a bridge is built there, if a bridge is built there, that will be beneficial for the tribals. Agreed. 10 crores was set apart for the bridge. But when the bridge was constructed finally, it became 30 crores, as it always happens in PWD everywhere. The day of the inauguration came, all the visual media is there, print media is there, chief minister is there, other ministers are there, MLAs, MPs, all are there. One of the TV persons asked the organizers, this bridge is meant for the tribals. For its inauguration, we don't see the tribal chief here. So all of us knew that tomorrow that's going to be the banner headline. So I, as a secretary, I looked sharp at the district magistrate. The district magistrate looked dirty at the tahsildar. The tahsildar finally got the tribal chief. True to the requirements of the visual media, the tribal chief was given a mantle and a wand. He looked like Ben Hur out of the So he resembled Ben Hur out of the annals of the Bible. The TV personnel asked him, Chief, this bridge is meant for the tribals. Yes. Do you like the bridge? Yeah. Do you like the bridge? I like it very much. Why do you like it so much? The tribal chief said in his simplicity, before this bridge was there, we tribals had to swim across a turbulent river in the hot sun. Now that the bridge is there, we can swim under the shade. That is a type of development which has gone around us, not by the industry, but by government servants like me. Now, we should have a win-win situation. In every business, there should be a win-win situation. The great industrialist of America, Andrew Carnegie, once he was asked how he achieved success in business and industry, he said because of his team, the staff, members of the staff, because of his workers, employees. How do you retain them with you? How do you make them happy? Andrew Carnegie said, it's very simple. Before I started this business, I was going to prospect for gold. When you prospect for gold, you will have to remove a ton of mud for a bit of gold. That is the way to handle the human resources within you. You may have to remove a ton of gold, but your aim is not a ton of mud to get some gold. About your treatment of the workers and the employees also, that applies even today. You have to keep the workers with you. See, there I don't know whether I'm taking more time. See, as a governor, I come for these meetings not to give you lectures, but most to listen. Today also I had the intention to listen to your lecture, but I have to go because the PM is there and I came today. Then since the helicopter could not land, I was asked to do the work for him. I had to report to him at 6 o'clock, so kindly excuse me. To learn because, you know, in one of the states, there was a rift between the chief minister and the governor, not in Bengal, certainly not in Bengal. There was a flash floods. The chief minister thought, I will go for an aerial survey. So he came to the helipad, but the captain of the helicopter, he had gone to fetch his son from the school. He's a third standard boy. When he came there, he sees the chief minister is there, the governor is there, DGP is there, the chief secretary is there. The chief minister asked the pilot, please let us go for an aerial survey, start the engine immediately. Very politely, the pilot said, sir, will you kindly give me 5 minutes? Why 5 minutes? I have to send this boy to my house and then I'll come back. Very magnanimously, the chief minister said, let him also come with us. He's a young boy, let him learn the trick of the trade. But up in the air, there was some confusion. Since the chief minister was heading a coalition government, whenever...
I hope you're all fresh, because we're starting with a very important session next. Now, it's a privilege here, of course, to be your host for the day. My name is Shweta Kothari, and our next session is on leadership. Because leadership, remember, at its core, is not just about authority or success. So I have the honor of introducing two towering figures today from India's corporate and intellectual landscape. Gurcharan Das is a renowned Indian author and public intellectual, widely respected for his writing on India's economy, its ethics, and civilization. Before turning to writing full-time, he had a distinguished corporate career, serving as the CEO of Procter & Gamble and later as the managing director of Procter & Gamble Worldwide. He's one of India's foremost public intellectuals and the author of seminal works such as India Unbound, The Difficulty of Being Good, and Another Sort of Freedom. Mr. Gurcharan Das, may I request you to come on stage, please. Up next, joining for this conversation is R. Gopalakrishnan. He's a distinguished business leader and author known for his insights into management, leadership, and organizational culture. Over a very long corporate career, he's held senior roles, including executive director at Tata Sons and vice chairman of Hindustan Unilever India. Sir, please come on stage. Let's give a round of applause, please. Both these leaders have played a defining and pivotal role in India's growth story, with rare distinctions of carrying boardroom wisdom beyond corporation and public imagination into public imagination through books as well as public platforms. Aligned with the vision of Viksit Bharat, this session of Duologue brings on stage three important leaders. May I also have the honor of inviting Mr. Barun Das, CEO, Managing Director for TV9 Network, on stage. And these three thought leaders will sit here today to decode the DNA of leadership, where leadership is not merely about bottom line, but about shaping a societal, cultural, moral, and economic landscape. Over to you, Mr. Das.
Thank you very much, Shweta. I don't know how you call three of us three leaders. I've grown up knowing about Mr. Gopalakrishnan, Mr. Gurucharan Das. They're legends, and I'm still a learner from their wisdom and experience. This session is going to be exactly in the line of what Mr. Myra said, that it is going to be a session of learning. I also believe that we live as long as we learn and we evolve. I try and learn every moment, not only from legends, I also try and learn from anybody who come across and meet up with me. So we would talk about leadership. I believe, this is my own personal feeling, sir, that I think life and business, those of us who manage people, life and business, there's a blurring line. We carry the same personality in both places. At times we confuse. So leadership, according to me, is an attitude. It doesn't restrict us in our conduct only in the corporate world, in our life at every step of the way. I had come across many questions about leadership where I was confused, I didn't have answers. So tonight, I'm going to take the opportunity to bounce off those questions and the gray areas about leadership that I have in my mind from both of you gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Right, the first question is quite an obvious one. I think each one of us would have guessed it here. Are leaders born or built or self-made? Mr. Das.
Well, both. A combination of conditioning and growing up. But also, I think there are certain attitudes. You use the word attitude. I think that is, for me, actually, leadership.
Excuse me, sir, 1 second. Are we sure that his mic is working properly? Console, could you just check? Because I think it's dropping at times. So just 1 second break. I think your voice was dropping in between. I just let them check it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better. And if you could hold it a little closer to your
Little
mouth.
further.
No,
Okay.
a little closer.
Little closer.
That's
Oh dear. So, you use the word attitude, and that is absolutely right. That my years of experience have taught me that ultimately leadership is about attitude far more than skills or even intelligence. It's not only attitudes. Ultimately, a leader has to be trusted. So the most important thing for a person who's working, there's some garbage going on here.
No, we need to do something about it. Just say a few words, sir.
Can you hear me? Nobody can hear me.
Now people can hear you.
Can you hear me? No, everybody's
Amritanshu, the other mic, please.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, is this better? This is okay?
borrow yours.
1 second. Let me.
Okay. This is fine.
Hello.
Look, I prefer his.
No, let it be. The other one you give to him, no? No, unko bhi chahiye na?
So you got the wrong one.
Just check, sir, one second.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
This is a comedy of errors.
Okay, all right. This is a comedy of errors in a leadership session. Thank you very much. So we come back, sir. So I take your word, it's an attitude. We'll come back with some explanation later.
Yeah, in the spirit of this comedy that we are going to enact before you all, and the point that I was making was the point actually that you had made, which is about attitude being and attitude even being more and a more important skill. And ultimately, the role of the leader is to create trust in the organization. And trust is based on people feeling in the organization that they are being treated fairly. Fairness.
Fairness, trust,
and
yes.
So, what do I mean by attitude, and how does that inculcated? That was your question. Is it innate? Is it conditioning? And so the attitudes such as determination, integrity, these are attitudes. And in my case, I learned this at the age of 4, without realizing it. My name used to be Ashok Kumar, but my grandmother suspected that my mother had given me that name because she thought my mother was secretly in love with a Bollywood actor named Ashok Kumar. And some of you people in this audience might know that Ashok Kumar in the 1940s was a combination of Amitabh Bachchan and Shah Rukh Khan.
Sir, I must compliment you. You look no less handsome than Ashok Kumar at this age also. You aged gracefully.
So, my grandmother suspected this, and so this was not right. My name, so she took me to her guru. She placed me at his feet, and she said to the guru, "Guruji enu na dyoji." And the guru, seeing me at his feet, came up with a good answer. He said, "Why don't we call him Guru Charan Das?" So, at the age of 3.5, I'm instantly transformed from the Prince of Happiness, Ashok Kumar, to the humble servant of the feet of the Guru. And when I grew up, I asked the Guru, "Why did you give me that name?" And he says, "Son, it's a good thing to be reminded about humility." By the way, humility is one of those qualities, attitudes. And then he gave the very best definition of humility that I have heard. And what is that? Humility, he said, is to take your work seriously, but not yourself seriously.
Very nice.
And that,
excellent.
In fact, that became such an enduring lesson of my life that I dedicated my latest book, Another Sort of Freedom, to the happy few who don't take themselves too seriously. And frankly, that's freedom. If you don't take yourself too seriously, that is a source of inner freedom. And if you, and where it comes, where it's connected to leadership, is that if great leaders, I have seen this, and I'll give you one example. The best leaders are ones who have the ability to act without worrying about who gets the credit for that action. And it is really, as Gopal and I were talking, it is the most, the most original idea in the Bhagavad Gita is the idea of Nishkam Karma, that you act for the sake of the action without worrying what's in it for me, without worrying about the consequences. So, to me, that is a very important quality. Now, it's not easy.
So, with due respect, we would go through these qualities. I want to list them down. But for the opening remark, if I can request Mr. Gopalakrishnan to reflect taking cue from what Mr. Das has said, that are leaders born or leaders are made, self-made or built. Now, he obviously gave me a very simple one-line, I would say an SOP or a theory that how to practice humility. That's very easy for anyone here or for me, that you take your work seriously, don't take yourself seriously. So similarly, I want to come back to you, that do you feel leadership is born or built? I would also like you to sort of take reference from a brilliant piece of concept that I heard you speaking, which is truthiness and mathiness. Truthiness, Paul Romer, mathiness from a comedian. So could you please elucidate us, educate us on this aspect of leadership?
The short answer to your question is leaders are self-made.
Leaders are self-made.
Yeah, they're not born. I have had the privilege of working for a Ratan Tata and also working for an Ashok Ganguly or even seen Prakash Tandon. And they are completely different if you have to sit down and write about their leadership style. But I think I'm certain it was self-made. My definition of leader is rather practical and simple. A leader is the person who can reflect and act. Reflect because he creates spaces in his mind to think about what he has done. Act because the situation requires his intervention. That's it.
Excellent. I would like to, you said that leaders are made, self-made, but I think one of the brilliant practices, again a learning for me, is that what you practice from the HR perspective in Tata Group, where very succinctly, very nicely you said that you need to find out good people, retain the better one, and advance the best ones. So you mean to say that when they are learning, when you recruit somebody at the management trainee level or a middle management level, then he grows up to be at the top of in the corner office. So in the process, you're seeing that they're making themselves, creating a leader out of themselves. Is that what you saw when you are advancing best people?
It is what you test for. You take a bright person, or everybody seeks to take a bright person, but you move that person around. Because if you're sitting in the same place doing the same job for 20 years, you may become very good at that job, but that doesn't make you a leader. It may make you a leader in a particular situation regarding that job. And if they pass every test, it's like a cricketer. You'll play club cricket, then you'll play school cricket and universities, Ranji Trophy, before you become a test cricketer. You do exactly the same with people in business and enterprise. And when you do that, you got people who are not assured that they'll be successful. There are so many CEOs who get fired. And one of the books I've written is on that. Why do CEOs work their way up and then get fired? And my simple conclusion, obviously I'm oversimplifying in the interest of brevity, is they lose sight of themselves. They become arrogant, they get hubris, they don't listen to people, and they get fired. But I will stop there because I must be brief and allow a discussion amongst ourselves.
I will come to you with a question, which is taking a cue from him. Well, I think one of the qualities that I would expect in a leader, besides the qualities that you have just listed down, is ability to be ahead of the curve. You know, it's like the cricket captain has there's a catch which is there at the short leg, and then you put a fielder there. That's following the game. But if you had put the fielder before the catch went there, that's being ahead of the curve. That's what I mean. I want to ask you, sir, both of you, that you had actually coached, mentored many leaders in your life. You have also been mentored by many leaders, the legends. Do you think that there are certain qualities or shortcomings which you would try to look into a person or find in a person, which will be elimination criteria? I mean, those are the things, if you see in someone, he's not fit to be a leader, no matter how he tries, unless and until, you know, sometimes we say the talents would remain, skills can be imparted. So have you come across a set of qualities which would be some kind of an untouchable qualities? That person would never grow up to be a leader. And at the very early stage, do you really look for a few aspects, qualities, edges, which make you think that this gentleman or this lady has the promise to grow up to be the leader if nurtured well and the person is working on themselves?
Yeah. Well, first let me respond to what Gopal just said. And he's right. One of the risks of becoming a successful leader is arrogance and why leaders are fired. But that was precisely why I spoke before about the Guru's idea of humility, which was not to take yourself too seriously. Great leaders, hopefully, they won't be fired, but one of the reasons why they're not fired is because they have that inner freedom, that sense of security, of not taking themselves too seriously, you know?
I understand.
So he's actually endorsed the point I was trying to make. Now, you've asked an interesting question, and I come from a company, Procter & Gamble, where it is only promotion from within. Meaning that if somebody leaves the company, you can't just advertise the job in the paper or try and fill the job from the outside through a headhunting firm. You have to promote from within. And of course, we had a world to choose from, so if we couldn't find, and it became ridiculous at times because we needed a company secretary, and my boss says, let's get him from Timbuktu. And I said, you know, the person has to know Indian laws, so it can become a difficult challenge. But the point I'm making is that this promotion from within obsession was such that the day you joined, you learned that you would only go up if you train the person below you to take your job. And so I remember a situation when I was at the global headquarters and I wanted to talk to the brand manager of one of our products, of oil of Olay. And no, it was Pantene shampoo. And I asked my secretary to please call him, and she comes back to say, I'm sorry, but he's training his assistant right now, and he will not be available for the next 45 minutes. And I said, this is quite wonderful. First, I was a bit upset. Yeah, I'm a managing director, and this guy's a brand manager, and why doesn't he show up? But then I realized the culture of a company where training your next person to become a leader is your religion, is your mantra. And so it was as important as the next market share.
No, but, sir, I'm sorry, are you responding to my question?
I'm responding to your, I'm sorry, I'm not a good responder to your questions. I tend to go around.
I will bring you back, sir,
Yeah.
with your permission.
What I'm trying to suggest is that because it was your duty to train people, it was also your duty for the people to know what you thought of how that person would be, and did the person have the potential? And yes, there was an example of a case where I had to tell the person, I'm sorry, but you're not going to make it. And it was unfortunate, but true.
Right. Sir, anything that can help us, or the leaders? Because I believe that we who are in general management jobs, I believe that we are possibly master of none. What we are master of is to manage people. And I feel a leader doesn't need to know everything. They need to just know who knows. So is it something, some litmus test or some very critical aspects that you look in a person or in a candidate who is like either make the cut or not make the cut?
Well, if I isolate one item, because I can give you 10 items that will...
No, please give all the 10.
No. It's good to be focused.
Okay.
And the one item I would say is the manager's job is to solve problems amidst uncertainty. If all the facts are available, you can do mathiness.
Yes. So would you please take 2 minutes and explain the audience and the audience on the television your concept of mathiness and truthiness?
Well, since you insist, I will do so. But I have not coined these two terms. But mathiness is regarded as the skill to convert everything into rational algorithms. So if you ask, is the Indian GDP growing at 8%? You say, show me the evidence. And then you can get caught up in all the numbers and prove it is 7.9 and not 8.1. The truthiness is walking around and trying to see, does it smell like it's 8% or does it smell like it's 5%? And most of our most important decisions in life use a combination of the two. If your daughter or son is not growing up well, quote unquote, up to a point you can get data, who are her friends, is she studying well? But after that your parental intuition comes in, truthiness, and you go out and check whether you need to do something or treat it as a passing phase. So that's mathiness and truthiness. They're just nice little expressions which sound mysterious but are very commonsensical. The one quality that I have found as a great discriminator is this person able to solve problems in the presence of, in abundance of ambiguity? The more ambiguous, does he get overwhelmed by ambiguity or is he able to see his way through? Parenting is the best form of management development, frankly. No parent, father or mother, is trained to be a parent. I've never come across a course, maybe EEILM can start a program, but nobody will attend that program because you will not get a job after that. It's a thankful job which is immediately thankless. That's what a management career is all about. The thankfulness of the job comes much later. The thanklessness of the job is when you're being trained. And I find that people who get overwhelmed, you know, when I joined Tata's, Ratan Tata asked me to become a director of Tata Motors. Something happened and there was no CEO. And he said, will you assist me? I didn't know the backside from the front side of a truck, to be honest. I mean, I had been selling dalda and soap and stuff like that, you know. But I said, there's no way I'm going to ever know more about the foundry or the production line compared to this guy who spent 20 years there. He's 20 years younger than me. So I used to go every Saturday and Sunday to the factory to sit down, listen to him, understand maybe 40-50%. I have a background in engineering. And then take decisions or bring back things where I wanted to consult Ratan Tata. That is the skill that's required. When I was sent for the first time from being an area manager in the south to being a regional manager in the north, I had never visited Punjab. For me, it was a foreign country. I'm going back to the 60s, 70s. Huh? And everybody looked different to me. But I'm sure my bosses were wondering whether I'm a fellow who could operate only in the comfort of the south or could I learn to operate there. So that is the skill I would look for.
Right. So I would like to bounce off my hypothesis on it. I mean, there are many things that I observe in a person when I think that whether they are fit to be groomed into a leader or should be invested in or not. But two of the things are red alerts for me. Red alert. Two aspects are red alert for me, for any person. So one is very fundamentally time management. If I see anyone who's unable to manage their own time, I would tend to I would not really invest in that person. And that is very apparent in anybody in their conduct. The second, what I look at in a person, that their reactions to mistakes or reactions to when you identify or when you point out their mistakes. So how, because, you know, again, if you take it from Mr. Myra, or what I believe that we are eternal learner and we learn more from our mistakes. So these two are red alert for me when in a person, when I see that person is very protective about the mistake and the person is failing to manage time. So your take on this?
Well, this is again coming back to the fundamentals we began with, a question of attitude. How does a person operate under in a situation of adversity? You know, it's Gopal, it's ironic that we still have not learned how to recruit people. You know, we typically, the candidate comes, he's top of the class in IIM Calcutta, and the questions that we ask the person are about facts. Does he know this? Does he know this? Does he know this? Of course he knows those things. I mean, but business ultimately is a matter of common sense. And as he said, it's about uncertainty. And what one is looking for is that sense of a person's attitude. And in the interview, we'll never ask anything to learn about how the person solves the problem. And so I would say, since you will have students, MBA students here, and in the audience, I mean in your television audience, this is a message to both companies on how to recruit and also to MBA students and also to the faculty of MBAs. Teach them. It's not easy, by the way, to teach attitude. Attitudes are formed very early, but there are enough studies to show. But there are, more importantly, there are ways to uncover attitude. And I don't know about in Tatas or Levers, but what I learned was that learn how to interview a candidate. And so therefore, I would just say that ultimately leaders, good leaders have come to some equilibrium with regard to their purpose, the purpose of life. And I'm sorry I'm taking this discussion to a philosophical level, but frankly, all human beings want to live a life of purpose. And especially those who are very successful leaders begin to ask this question in their 40s, you know, is this what life is all about? And good leadership is about creating an environment where people can find that sense of purpose.
Thank you, sir. I would just like to go, again, with your permission, I'll come back to my topic. Mr. Gurcharan Das has emphasized on that importance of identifying a right candidate during recruitment, be it management trainee, be it somebody you're recruiting for as a CEO. But if the hypothesis that I said, if those two are really my elimination criteria, time management.
So one is time management. What is the second one?
The second one, how one reacts to mistakes.
Okay.
Can I comment on
but
that?
yes, but I can't judge, till date I haven't been able to judge these two red alerts while interviewing. They surface as I start working with them. So if you agree whether these two are real red alerts or not, and do you have any guidance on whether during recruitment, he said recruitment is very important. Teaching, I agree. Teaching, you can teach these two. But while recruitment, you really cannot filter these two bad qualities out. So
I disagree. That there are techniques now, psychologists have found, to uncover these specific attitudes of people, how they work, etc. And I really feel that both businesses, companies, as well as your business schools haven't got it.
I agree.
The
the psychometric tests are there. But I was referring to more like if you're recruiting a senior manager or a future CEO. So if these two are red alerts for you, and is there a way that you can figure out?
Well, firstly, with due respect to your view, I don't consider those red lines.
I would like to be corrected.
And it's worthwhile for you to think as to why you have got that idea. It is not right or wrong. Many things in management are like that. It's neither right nor wrong. You know, and when I see my sons and daughters-in-law growing up and raising their children, I have this idea of an ideal father or ideal mother, always calm, always diagnosing the issue. But they're all different, even my own children. And that's true of managers as well. I can, without mentioning names, tell you people who have been hopeless at managing time, who have done brilliantly well.
Sorry, come again?
Who have done brilliantly well.
Even not managing time well.
Even though they don't manage time well. Anil Ambani used to make a statement once that I have lost weight because an analyst asked me, if you can't manage your own weight, how will you manage Reliance Industries? Well, it's good that he lost weight. I have no problem with that. But neither did he manage Reliance Industries too well. So these are what in physics we call necessary conditions but not sufficient.
I agree. That's why elimination, I said.
No,
it's not selection.
I would not eliminate a person only for that reason. I got the impression that you asked the question, if these are two red lines, if I see this, they're out. I think that's not something I would agree with. It's not in my experience either. Those are signals. And I think it's very important to consider that development of leadership requires the developer of the leader or the assessor of the leader to also understand ambiguity. I told you about 3 people whom I've seen operating at different levels of closeness. Probably Prakash Tandon at a great distance, Ashok Ganguly much closer, and Ratan Tata very closely. They're completely different. And I'm not here to analyze them. At least 2 of them are dead and gone, and one of them is quite old. But to say that there's no perfection in this, there is effectiveness. If the person who's not managing his time is therefore ineffective, putting off all his people, not taking decisions, that's a red line for me. It's the outcome rather than the input. That's the point I want to make.
Right. Now, there's another concept that my own self-made concept. If I have to just classify or list the broad activities that a leader does, again, I want to bounce it off with you, whether it's in the right direction, the thought is in the right direction or not. I believe the CEOs or leaders, they virtually are doing 3 broad activities. One, they manage people. People in the sense that manage colleagues, employees, stakeholders. That's one of their most important jobs. And then they take decisions. Decisions with respect to everything. Day-to-day, complexity, strategy, vision, long-term vision, those are decisions that I make. And then they guide the organization. Guide the organization, right? They're supposed to show path, like I think John C. Max has said that, one of the authors, he said that leaders are those who knows the way, shows the way, goes the way. So therefore, somebody who's a leader is expected to solve the problem or guide the people. So do you think that broadly these are the three broad buckets? That's what the CEOs or the leaders focus on?
Well, since I don't seem to manage to answer your questions too well, let me take this head on. That, you know, I think that the mindset with which you are coming from is a mindset where the leader is the big decision maker, the guide, as you put it. And I have a different view of leadership. I come from a school where leadership is participative, that a good leader actually tries to stand back and elicit from the people. And it's not the command and control school of leadership.
Taking decision is not command and control. Before taking the decision, you consult everyone.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the whole organization runs on your decision. You're the final decision maker. If it's right, it's the right decision. If you're wrong, it's your ownership that you've taken the decision.
Yes.
It's not commanding. I understand,
No,
Mr.
but
Gopal.
what I'm trying to say,
Because he often mentioned, and I agree to that you're not supposed to, as a leader, you don't control. You empower people. Those are elementary lessons of leadership.
Yeah.
But final decision making is on to the leader.
But what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, people don't say that he did it, the leader did it, or he decided, we did it. That is...
So I have a little difference in that. If it goes wrong, I said I did it. If it goes right, I say we did it. But finally, I took the decision.
Okay, you're a generous man.
No, I'm not. I'm a genuine man, not a generous man. I am driven by merit. So I give the credit, and as a leader, I understand that I have to take any decision gone wrong. I have to be responsible for it. But I cannot shy. I think he just mentioned that Mr. Gopalakrishnan just mentioned. Somebody I've seen in leadership roles, they prolong. They don't take decision. That is the biggest shortcomings that I've seen in leaders. That they will keep postponing decision making because they're unable to take decisions.
Yeah. No, that point is a legitimate point. I was just trying to say that my idea of the leader is the one who stands back. That's the Chinese.
While taking a decision, no, sir.
No, who stands? No, we're not talking about that. The organization says we did it. And the whole job of the leader is to empower the organization.
That I agree. But then when chips are down, when blocks are down, the leader has to be in the front, not stand back. So your take on this?
No, I think you both said the same thing but in different ways. So let me state what I'm saying. Ultimately, the responsibility is of the leader.
Right.
If your profits collapse,
yes,
you'll be blamed.
Yeah.
If the profits are good, it is the leader's option, whether he's generous or whatever you want to call it, to say my team did it. You know, examples help rather than just talking. And I want to give one example which made a great impact on me. I was that time in Hindustan Lever, and the chairman, Sushim Datta, had just become chairman. And we got a message from the head of our Dumduma tea plantation in Assam that a ransom of 35 lakhs had been asked for, you know, by whom, and 2.5 rupees per kilo of every kilo of tea sold. There was no way Hindustan Lever was willing to do that. But the lives of our managers were at stake because 15 days or something had been given. And we, our chairman in the past, before Sushim, had made speeches that we are a company of people. So Sushim said this is a very unusual situation, none of us is trained for it, and he went around the table. Two of my colleagues put up their hand and said, we will airlift them secretly. And Sushim said, okay, if you can do that, go ahead. They did it. We went to the ministry in Delhi, we used the clout, we got the general officer commanding, General Brar was that time GOC in C in Eastern Command, and Air Vice Marshal Sinha was the AOC. Overnight, without the Congress government at that time knowing what's happening, we got 35 families out. If it had failed, people would have said Sushim Datta botched it. But I have watched it happen. Took everybody's view, backed the two guys who said they'll do it all the way, and heaved a sigh of relief saying, thank God this has come right. That is leadership.
Absolutely, absolutely in agreement, sir. So from Mr. Shuk, you want to say something, sir?
Well, I was just going to add on to that, the thought that if you are in a situation of adversity, and you've described a good one, we faced a similar one of adversity, which was when the government brought in an order called the DPCO, Drug Price Control Order. And they gave us a price for Vicks Vapor Rub, which was a price that we would actually lose money every time we sold a bottle of Vicks Vapor Rub. So we were in the doghouse. And our share price collapsed in the stock market. And we were going to go into a loss. And we actually might have had to totally collapse. I don't think she likes me. Anyway, what happened afterwards was, I was at that time the head of the company, actually just been appointed. So I was 38, 39 years old. And so I called our group of people, the top management leadership team, and you were describing such a meeting. And we went around, there were depressed, faces were depressed, people who said we are going to have to look for jobs. And one person in our team made a joke. He said, you know, what if we had been an Ayurvedic company? There's no price control on Ayurvedic products. And then our R&D guy said, he was looking at the formula of Vicks Vapor Rub, and he says, you know, he was a wise person. He knew not only the Western system of medicine, he was a doctor, but he also knew the Ayurvedic system. And he says, you know, a lot of the ingredients are menthol, camphor, eucalyptus are natural ingredients. So we passed, and the other fellow says, imagine a headline appearing in the Times of India that a 100-year-old American product becomes a 2,000-year-old Indian medicine. So people were laughing, but the R&D guy decided, he said, look, I'm going to the Bombay University Library, and I'm going to look in the Ayurvedic formulary. And he took a bottle of Vicks with the ingredients. And he said, let's just in case it's something. And so he comes back. From there, we meet in the evening, and he says every single ingredient is in the Ayurvedic formulary. We couldn't believe it. So the question now was how to go about it. And so I talked to our government relations guy in Delhi, and I said, why don't you sound out? You have good contacts, people who you can talk to honestly. And that fellow says, well, the advice that the government relations officer told us was, don't try and change the formula of Vicks Vapor Rub. Register a new product with the same formula as Vicks Vapor Rub, and you don't have to give a name. You can give the name later. And so we did this. When our application arrived on the desk of the officer in the Food and Drug Administration, he knew what was going on. He practically fell off his chair, but he couldn't do anything. So he had to observe the law, and so within a month we got our registration, and we allowed the present stock to finish, and we printed new labels, same product. We in fact had a problem with our union. This is Datta Samant's time in Bombay. I don't know if those of you who remember the dreaded Datta Samant. And so we were having problems. We said, no, we'll put a new plant in Hyderabad, and we'll have only women, because the guys in our plant were all men, and they were giving us a hard time. Anyway, long and short of it is that Vicks became Ayurvedic, and the benefit of that, the gravy, was that Ayurveda, see, we were limited as a drug product to 60,000 pharmacies in India, but as an Ayurvedic, suddenly we were competing with Hindustan Lever. We went to 3 million outlets within 12 months.
Not only that, they even inspired Baba Ramdev to come into existence.
Very nice, excellent.
So my point here is that you create an environment of open discussion where people don't feel that they're fools.
So the industry that I come from, I deal with people who are super intelligent, the journalists. So I have no luxury of considering anybody as a fool around me. But I understand what you're saying. I just want to move into the topic of leadership in the Indian context. But before that, I have a generic question to both of you, gentlemen, that, you know, in corporate leadership, the dynasty or the family passing on to the baton to the next generation, and the leadership thus getting passed on. What is your take on that? I have heard you saying, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, in the context of Toys R Us and Lego, and you have also mentioned that public at large will be a little sympathetic when the same family, next generation, takes up the baton. So what's your general take on it? Do you think that it is meritocracy is being compromised at times? Even a listed company, when you pass on the leadership to the next generation?
Yes. In other words, I think we as a country, as a country with entrepreneurs and businesses, will not mature until we learn succession. And we learn that you don't have to fill your companies with nephews, that you keep your family out of it. And there is a time, it's very unusual when the second generation or the third generation is very even more unusual, where you have real leaders at that stage. But frankly, I know too many cases of Indian companies with very strong, the entrepreneurs built very strong companies which did not survive because they thought that only their children could succeed.
So I just asked a question, you have agreed with me. I'm glad. But I didn't have any notion on this because I'm too inexperienced for that. I just wanted to take your opinion and views on it. Sir, yours?
Well, if I may quote Deng Xiaoping, I don't care if the cat is black or white, so long as it catches mice. So I don't care if it's your entrepreneur's son or nephew or a professional manager, so long as he delivers. I've sometimes felt that what Gurcharan just said, that you tend to automatically give it to your son without testing. If you see Dhirubhai Ambani do well by putting Mukesh, it does look he's done well. But because he's a son, you can't deny it to him. But had he chosen the wrong son, we don't know what would have happened. I can give you the example of Harsh Mariwala, who consciously decided that the best person should get that job, and he has put Shaugato Gupta there, and not his own son, against a lot of turmoil, as he has himself mentioned, in his family. So I believe this is an infructuous debate. The right debate to have is that the era of the PEM is coming, Professional Entrepreneurial Manager. Professionals have to be entrepreneurial, entrepreneurs have to be professional. And if I look at Chandrasekhar today running Tata's, he's a good example of a professional manager. He doesn't have the surname, but he's highly entrepreneurial. He has taken Tata into what Jamshedji Tata did in 1900, going into steel and hydropower, into electronics, into iPhone. Most of your iPhones here are probably made in a Tata factory, or some of you will have such an iPhone. And you can have, therefore, the future manager, since we are talking to young students also here, the future manager will be a PEM. And whether he's born to the founder or not will not make a difference. If he's not a P and an E, then he won't be the leader that you require.
Another learning for me. Thank you very much, sir. I have been signaled that we are running out of time, so I would skip the India bit of it because the other two topics are far more relevant and I'm far more confused about them, and they're very close to our practical day-to-day working. One is women in leadership. Have we done enough? I mean, even if you still say that senior management positions in the top companies, listed companies in India, women's participation is about 18%. I don't see that it's increasing at a rate it should have. Is there a way that we could course correct on that? Because even McKinsey has said that by utilizing women workforce itself and in the leadership position as well, India's GDP can get a fillip by about $600 to $700 billion, which is almost about 20% of 30% of our GDP, 20% of our GDP. So if that be the case, that is there something that we need to do, we are missing out in that context?
Well, the tragedy is even bigger because you're talking about leadership and corporate leadership, but women's participation in the labor.
37% compared to East Asia, 66%. Even that's very small.
I mean, that is a shocking statistic, and every economist has been trying to figure out. Tearing is here and her here as to why. Why is this? Now girls are getting as good an education as boys. And why are women not joining the workforce and so on? So I'm putting your question in a national context where this is a very serious issue. And it's absolutely, your assumptions are absolutely right, what you said, that yes, that it could have a very positive effect on not only the GDP, but the overall culture of managing.
So I in fact say I go one step further. I often say I only have, this is truthiness, not mathiness. I don't have a figure for it, but I often feel, very strongly I feel that women-led development is the panacea for the world. So that's my own feeling. Again, I said that truthiness, there's no math in it. So your take on, sir, how do we solve this problem? Where we bring in, or utilize, bring in, treat women on merit and have more women in the workforce, not only in the corner offices, but in general, across the economy?
You know, I have an answer to one part of it. I don't have an answer to the second part. The part that I have an answer to is, yes, women must be there. But this bias against the female goes back a very long time, and we don't want to go into that history here. We want to accelerate it. I'm not sure how to accelerate it, other than discussing the subject like we are doing today, making people aware, conscious. You know, I go back to my old days in Calcutta. Gache kathal, go fefu. You know, you are very interested to, you've seen the kathal now. Nobody's disputing it's the kathal. But gofe tel lagi dijiye. You're not going to get it. So can we be a bit patient? Do what we can to accelerate it. But that it is very important is not in dispute. I am the happy father of 2 daughters, happy grandfather of 3 granddaughters, and I fully back women.
Thank you.
My point here is I asked the same question you asked us. I asked this to a lady who was a position of power. You probably all know of her. And her answer was, I'll have reservations. I said, you mean every 3rd CEO or every 2nd CEO should be a woman? A reservation? And she said, yes. And I was horrified. I must tell you. I think that would be the worst possible way to solve the problem. So let's not get seduced. Let's not even go in that direction.
Right. Okay, that brings me back to the last topic. Again, a topic which is very close to my heart and something that I am as a father also grappling with, not only as a head of an organization, which is dealing with the Gen Z, the new generation. You have seen the transition India has gone through, the Indian managers, even after economic liberalization where LPG came into being, liberalization, privatization, globalization. I think that you have seen the change in attitude in leadership from that time. And then now, with the new workforce coming in, while the corner offices and the leadership positions are mostly with the Gen Y, which is just one generation before that. Have you noticed that new phenomenon called Gen Z and how they are reacting, how they are looking at life in general and how they will look at their profession and career in particular? So how is that phenomenon spanning out in corporate India
So,
now?
you know, I don't understand all these alphabets, ZZ.
Okay, I'll just
Younger people and older people. Let's put it that way. That's easier for me.
So where do I stand then?
I am Gen A. So you can decide where you want to be.
So then it is not older, younger. You are again dividing it into.
So let me answer your question. I've thought about this deeply. And I've come to the conclusion there's no problem with Gen Z. The problem is with Gen Y and B and A and all those other guys. We have to change our attitudes. When I was young, my father would tell me I should do A, B, C, D. But my grandfather would tell me, I wish your father would listen to me. And the same thing is happening with my son. And now I'm seeing my son and my grandson. I therefore wrote a book on this called What the CEO Really Wants from You. And while we train our youngsters to aim high, to think strategically, to do all the mumbo jumbo that management
The
books,
4 A's of yours.
the 4 A's. Make sure that you're a good subordinate before you think of becoming the big boss. And what are the 4 ways to be a good subordinate? I'm not elaborating because that's going to take time. But it's very, very important to emphasize the 4 A's and let people. I have had a situation, I can tell you a real life case. I was young, 31, 32. Had a young trainee who's a fairly well-known guy, but I'm not mentioning his name, who was 22, 23. He became my area manager. He had to catch a flight to Nagpur, 6 o'clock flight. And at 10:30, I see him in the office. So I say, hey, what are you doing here? He said, I missed my flight. He said it in a very, he wasn't apologetic or fretful or anything. Oh, well, I overslept. I said, what do you mean you overslept? In those days, a ticket to Nagpur would cost 250 rupees or 300 rupees by air. And he said, I didn't set an alarm because I get up on my own. I didn't get the phone to ring me up because, you know, you could get a phone alarm. I just thought I'll get up, but I didn't get up, so I lost the flight. So I said, I'm afraid you'll have to bear the cost of that flight. He said, that's okay, no problem. I said, this is such a level of casualness. A month later, I had a chat with him. I said, are you sure you want to be a sales manager selling dalda and sunlight soap? He said, actually, you're right. This is not the career I'm looking for. In 2-3 months, he went. He's having a very good career, very successful in other respects. So I think it's very important to be able to demand being a good subordinate, and that's it. Don't tell the Gen Z to be like you, because you are not like your father, and your father wasn't like his father. Thank God. Otherwise, you'll still be sitting in the village swatting flies. That's my answer.
And, you know, frankly, business is common sense. Buy low, sell high. And the rules of business don't change from generation to generation. Somebody asked me the same question that you've just asked, and was asking me, well, how will the business rules change, or how would you change your style of managing with Gen Z? And I said, look, those rules, you have to satisfy your customer, you have to be fair to your suppliers, you have to respect your employees. Those rules are not going to change, whichever generation. But I think what his story, Gopal's story, has pointed to is a much deeper question with which we actually began. And that story really is how important
His attitude.
How important, it's partly the duty of the organization to be able to find people like this Nagpur flight misser and be able to tell the person, maybe this is not the job for you. Because half the time while I was working, I was feeling that maybe this is not the job for me. And eventually, I quit and became, at 50, I quit and became a writer. And so what I'm trying to say is, it comes back to the fact that we all have to make a living, but we also want to make a life. And that making a life means that you have to find some purpose, that your work, the job of the leader who's guiding the organization, has to be able to create that sense of purpose. And there will be people like me who have a basic ambiguity about the commercial world, and who finally chose to become a writer. But I had solved the problem. I had become, for 25 years, I was a weekend writer. I was wearing 2 hats through my life, Monday to Friday hat, and then I would change to Saturday, Sunday hat. So my point, I think, here is that for every human being, we want to make a life.
So I think we have to wind up, but I must tell you that both you gentlemen, you reminded me the first lesson of leadership we were taught in business school, which is followership. And where you ended, sir, in fact, that has answered a question or a riddle that most of the modern day leaders would be facing soon, is how to handle the Gen Z. And both of you very nicely put, and especially you, sir, you're saying that we were motivated to make a living. I think the next generation, we got to motivate them to make a life. So we have an answer in your hand. And thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Thank you very much, audience, you've been a fantastic audience. It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Das. It was a great conversation. As always, TV9's award-winning duologue show with Barun Das is a cerebral, engaging, and real show in terms of the impact and the conversations it has. This particular session, too, had 3 legends speak their mind, sharing their unfiltered wisdom. And this could have gone on, as we saw the leadership itself get reignited on this stage. Please give it to duologue on stage with Barun Das. And to now felicitate the 2 titans. Yes, sir. May I please invite Professor Biswajoy Chatterjee, Vice Chancellor, UEM Jaipur, to kindly felicitate Gurcharan Das and R. Gopalakrishnan. Please. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom and for this very engaging session. And up next is the first author session of the Business and Economy Literature Festival, Nurturing High-Impact Leaders, with Rupa Kudva and Mamta Binani in conversation with Ajay Bandyopadhyay. As organizations grow more complex, challenges become more unpredictable, and leadership today demands far more than authority or efficiency. It calls for vision with empathy, impact with integrity, and results with responsibility. Joining us is Rupa Kudva. Rupa Kudva is a seasoned business leader, board director, investor, and author with nearly 4 decades of experience across the private, public, and non-profit sectors. Former CEO of CRISIL and managing partner of Omidya Network India. She currently serves on the board of Infosys, Nestle India, Tata AIA Life Insurance, and IIM Ahmedabad. She is the widely respected leader and known for her transformative and purpose-driven leadership. She's also the author of Leadership Beyond the Playbook and Lead with Impact. Also joining us would be Mamta Binani. Mamta Binani has been the national president of Institute of Company Secretaries of India. Is currently the president of MSc Development Forum, West Bengal. She's a lawyer with 28 years of experience, specializing in governance, company law, NCLT, and turnaround of stressed assets. She works consistently for women empowerment. She's a regular writer and a thought leader. Both of them will be in conversation with Ajay Bandyopadhyay. And we are setting the stage for our next conversation. In just about 2 minutes' time, we'll begin with the first author session of Business and Economy Literature Festival. And may I request everyone to please take their seats? May I also request Mamta Binani to please come on stage? And we're beginning with Nurturing High-Impact Leaders, our first author session for this evening.
Hello, check, check.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Rupa.
Rupa, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Are you able to see and hear me?
So Rupa, welcome to the BELF inaugural edition. And I know that you were supposed to be with us, but unfortunately, Rupa was not well, so she couldn't make it this time, but she was gracious enough to join this session virtually. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me two very distinguished guests, Rupa Kudwa, former MD and the CEO of CRISIL, presently the managing partner at Omidyar Network India and serving several corporate boards. And I also have with me Mamta, the past president of Institute of Company Secretaries of India and also an independent director serving various corporate boards. And Rupa is the author of The Leadership Beyond the Playbook, Craft Your Own Path, Lead with Impact. So this is the book, and today this book would be the central point of today's conversation. So Rupa, let me begin with you, that after this illustrious career in the corporate world, what really motivated you to write this book? And importantly, this book is something very different. You know, when I was reading through this book, it was not like other leadership book that full of a lot of models and the theoretical framework, but it was quite an easy read. And some way, it was also telling the story of many of us, the professionals, who were at the different level, in the different level of the value curve in the corporate world. So what was the whole secret behind this playbook? If you could just explain for the sake of the audience.
Thank you, Ajay. Good evening. Good evening, Mamta. It's a pleasure to be here at the Kolkata Lit Fest, and my apologies for not being there in person. Before I begin responding, can I just confirm that you're able to see and hear me clearly?
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. So let me jump in. So Ajay, you know, the way I think about this book is that it is a leadership companion. It helps you answer the question, what kind of a leader do I want to be? And then gives you the tool to craft your own path towards that. And, you know, the motivation you were asking, the motivation for writing this book really came when I looked back at my own journey. Beginning in the mid-1980s, when I used to visit factory floors as a lender, or pioneering the new concept of credit ratings in India and CRISIL, and then much later in the last decade, tech-led impact investing with India's net $500 billion, and the various trade-offs that I saw in boardrooms. What that showed me is that the reality of leadership is that leadership is not neat. And yet I find that very much in discussions, in literature, in books, it gets reduced to very neat frameworks. You know, what are the 7 steps? What are the 5 habits? But the truth is that for each of us, the leadership journey is very unique and it's very personal. It is shaped by our own context, it is shaped by the choices each of us makes, and it is shaped by the values we stand by. So this book really brings together all my learnings, experiences, and also my opinions. And it is meant for anyone who is trying to build something meaningful. Whether you're in a corporate role, whether you're building a startup, whether you're figuring out your next move. And, you know, I have tried to take an approach where I've included not just stories from my own journey, but also from leaders across industries. Because I firmly believe that leadership is not sector specific, particularly at senior levels. What matters today is the breadth of perspective, the ability to see patterns, the ability to connect the dots and recombine ideas to come up with new solutions. If you look at the book, and Ajay, I know, and thank you for spending the time reading it. If you've read the book, you will see that the themes are very modern and contemporary. What today's workforce cares about, It's about resilience. It's about purpose. It's about working across generations. What does it mean to read in an era of AI? What about mental health? But I've also included the classic leadership chapters, for example, strategy, execution, communication, and it's also very practical. You know, the book doesn't tell you what to do, but it ends with a do-it-yourself leadership toolkit, which you can use to create your own customized 90-day action plan. So what I'm really hoping, Ajay, is that this book will give readers the confidence to stop copying somebody else's playbook and give people the confidence that they can write their own playbook. So as you rightly said in your question, there are no acronyms, there are no frameworks or slogan. It's plain and simple, just leadership for tomorrow. And I have tried to, you know, most leadership books are written by academics or by consultants, and those understandably follow a framework-based approach. Books written by business leaders and practitioners typically tend to be memoirs, or they tend to be the story of how they built a single organization. I've tried to take a slightly different approach. So these are not my memoirs. My anecdotes are just to illustrate an argument or a point, but it's more to help readers to step back and reflect on the full range of leadership issues that actually come at them all at once. So that was really the thinking of what went and of what was behind the book and what went into the book.
Thank you so much. And I think, you know, that's pretty much a hallmark of your book, which is very practical, which is very grounded, and there are a lot of examples, the anecdotes, so that, you know, it's just not about, you know, top 1, 2, 3, 4 points, but those points are pretty much elaborated with a lot of anecdotes and the stories and the examples, the cases which people can relate to. You know, I would come to one of the aspects which you just also mentioned, that, you know, various aspects of leadership, and the previous speakers also deliberated a lot on that, which is the purpose. And your book, in the initial chapters, you talk about pretty much a purpose-driven leadership. And, you know, this is a word many of us also struggle to understand, that is it something concrete? What is the purpose is all about? Or this is, you know, pretty much an abstract idea, especially in a corporate world which is driven by very much the tangible milestone, tangible timeline and everything. So if you please elaborate on that fact, and most importantly, as a leader at the top position, how they can instill a sense of purpose among the various categories of employee. Most importantly about the Gen Zs, and in fact, the previous speakers were also talking about that. Today's Gen Zs, do they really care about purpose? Is there something that can really drive them towards an unified purpose?
Right. So there's a lot to unpack there. Fantastic question. So you're right, Ajay. Purpose is a word we hear a lot, but it feels very abstract. It almost feels like a riddle. And because it feels abstract, you know, people often dismiss it as fluff, or it's something nice to talk about, or something you see nicely put on a company website, maybe mentioned here and there. But the reality is that when people find purpose in their work, everything starts to feel more meaningful. Work starts to become a source of pride, and it starts to give you energy. And in today's world, I think if you can find the purpose in your work, it is the biggest antidote to FOMO, fear of missing out. It's an antidote to burnout, feeling like you're on a treadmill all the time, feeling overwhelmed by, oh my goodness, there's an endless flurry of meetings and emails. And I think a sense of purpose is a good, you know, counter to all of that. But it's abstract. So how have I approached it? What I've tried to do is I've tried to make it concrete by thinking of 3 or 4 possible ways that you can make people, you know, discover their purpose in a more structured manner. The first, of course, is through an organization's mission. You know, try and understand, you know, what is the mission, what is the purpose, does it energize you? I'll give you a small anecdote about myself, and I was really enjoying my work. I enjoyed evaluating companies in CRISIL. I evaluated businesses and all of that. And I thought of my role as doing that. But as I began to hear more conversations about my organization's purpose, they were conversations about bringing transparency to markets, conversations about enabling flow of capital, conversations about raising standards across industries, improving transparency. All of a sudden, my work became elevated to a completely different level, and it actually made me feel 2 feet taller. So I think that's just a small example. Spend the time understanding. Also watch out for, is the company really living its purpose and mission? Because I think that's really important. But when people find that alignment, there's a magic that happens. And it also becomes a compass for decisions. I also want to make it clear that this doesn't happen overnight. Purpose discovery is a journey. It can change over time as you evolve, and so on. The second way of finding purpose is really to look at role models, which we all know. There are so many people driven by purpose. What can we learn from them? The third thing I've also called out is finding purpose in the day-to-day work. Purpose is not some big, grand, lofty thing that arrives neatly packaged one day. It's in how you do your work on a day-to-day basis. Are you doing your work in a manner that promotes inclusive hiring? Are you creating opportunities for small businesses? Are you mentoring others and helping them come up? Because I believe in today's world, we are working with a generation which is not about just telling them where they went wrong, but trying to figure out what is the best way to communicate with them, give them constructive feedback in a holistic manner, right? So I think there are so many things that can go in living your purpose on a day-to-day basis. And finally, what I pointed out also is the whole concept of privilege. Everyone sitting in this audience today is privileged in some way or the other. It could be your education, it could be your networks, it could be your financial or economic or social status. The question really is, can we use our privilege as a platform to create opportunities for others? And that is what will give a sense of purpose. Now, quickly moving on to Gen Z. At the outset, I want to say, people of our generation, we have a lot of myths and we have a lot of preconceived notions about Gen Z. We say, oh, they are not committed, oh, they don't have purpose, oh, they keep moving jobs. I disagree. I think they view purpose in different ways. They look for authenticity in purpose. It's not enough just to say this is our purpose. You have to live it. Leaders and CEOs have to demonstrate that purpose in their day-to-day actions, the way they deal with people. There's no point saying empathy is my corporate value when I'm not showing that empathy in my day-to-day interactions. And look at the world that Gen Z has been born into. They don't know if the company they're working for will be around tomorrow because it could be disrupted by AI. They don't know whether their jobs will be around tomorrow. They have been born after the global financial crisis, after which the trust in institutions is at an all-time low. How do we really, they've grown up in a very different context. And I think leaders today who are millennials, and we still have Gen Y and even some older people in the leadership cadres across organizations, I think the least we can do is bring some empathy to their context and shift our own lenses. I think Mr. Gopalakrishnan said that in the earlier session as well, into the way that we view them and deal with them.
Yeah. Very, very relevant and very practical. Mamta, what's your take on that, on the whole idea around the purpose, and from the background that you are coming from, what you think about it?
Very interesting. At the outset, thank you to the organizers for inviting me here. My shout out to Swati also, who thought it appropriate to invite me. Thank you very much. Thank you to Ajay, who really took this forward. And we are missing you here, honestly. But the vibration is absolutely present here. So thank you for being there. My voice would be a little slurry. I just undergone a small operation. I had told Swati about it, but then I think if I'm understandable, I'm happily here. I'll give you another perspective about the whole thing. I belong to a Marwari family, and what I have seen is leadership in our families, we definitely see it at home. You know, our mothers and our grandmothers are solidly grounded and they are rolling at their homes, etc. They call the shots every time. But when it comes to workplaces, I have seen that somewhere or the other, especially for the women folk, if I may be allowed to say so, I come with the experience of about 32 years in corporate sector. I've worked in leadership positions. I wish to tell you that we have somewhat made ourselves a secondary citizen in corporates. We treat ourselves as being secondary. And unless we actually treat ourselves with respect, believe you me, nobody can give you respect. I have felt that we feel that office going is more of being engaged properly, of just not wasting our time, and that's it. So more or less, it's kind of a job of 9 to 5 or 6. We shut our computer, we shut our minds, and we're off. We don't want to get into any calls. If somebody calls us from office, we get irritated and we say, look, this is not the time when I can take calls, etc. So we may be committed, but we are not overly committed, and we don't own the product. We don't own the organization. At times, I have felt that it's more of kind of, when in office, we are plugged in. When out of the office, we are plugged out. Whereas I feel that in leadership position, it is more of an engagement. It's more of a commitment. Do you stop thinking about your son or your daughter or your house when you're always thinking about them, right? So I think if we can adopt the same strategy for our organizations, the purpose becomes more larger. The purpose gets integrated. I feel that integration is totally absent in the women folk especially. Up to the middle management or up to the lower management, this can still go on and we can still achieve. But when we think of opting to a senior management, this really has to change, Ajay. I think you agree to this.
Thank you, Mamta, for bringing this very valuable perspective around purpose and leadership, and especially, you know, how do you see leadership from the senior role, because there are various layers of leadership in the organization. And I think I will come to the next question to Rupa's, and in fact, one of the chapters she has very beautifully highlighted this thing, and I really liked what she has written, that, you know, one very important anecdote she has highlighted, that from the board chair of CRISIL telling her that moving into senior management role is mainly about flipping your lens from a worm's eye view to a bird's eye view. So essentially to look at the things from various larger perspective, be more collaborative, not just within your organization, outside your organization. And I think this is one area where a lot of people actually struggle. You know, they are somewhat, whether it's it doesn't matter woman employee or men employee, but somewhere at the middle level, they get stuck. So after the initial stupendous rise in their organization, there is some sort of, inertia that takes over. So Rupa, I mean, what are the skills and capabilities basically the middle managers actually require to transition into a senior management role, and what it takes to assume a broader responsibility in today's complex and diverse organizations?
Right. This is the biggest conundrum that people in the workforce face today. You know, so very often when I meet people who have spent anywhere between 8 to 15, 16 years in an organization, I hear the same refrain. You know, I've done really well in my career so far. I know my domain extremely well. I know my customer well. I manage my little team very well. I have a good equation with my manager or my boss. Why am I not able to make the transition or move from this level to senior management levels? And in reality, it's not just because there are fewer roles at the top. Of course they are. But the transition from mid-management to senior management is probably one of the most difficult transitions for people to make or professionals to make. And this happens mainly because of two reasons. The first is what you called out, Ajay, which is, as long as you're up to middle management, your entire world is basically, you see the world from the perspective of you, your team, your customer, etc. But the moment you go to top leadership, it is almost like you have to flip the lens from bottom up to top down and get a bird's eye view. Think about what a bird's eye view does. It gives you a view of the entire landscape. You can see the big picture. You can see the interconnections. You can see what happens if you do something in one part, how it affects the other. You can anticipate problems coming. All of that you can do with a bird's eye view. And that whole bird's eye view is what I have used to characterize developing strategic capability. And I think that comes from listening. It comes from opening up yourself up to different experiences. It comes with a whole lot of things which I've outlined in the book, through stories, examples, and the like. The second big thing that happens in the move from mid to senior management or top management is the following. Look, as long as you're up to a certain level, your entire world is you, your team, your customer maybe, and your manager, right? That is your world. But as you go to the top, all of a sudden, you find a whole lot of new stakeholders coming out and coming at you. And many of them, or most of them, you may not have even dealt with before. And who are these people that I'm talking about? They could be regulators, they could be your competitors, they could be industry associations, it could be the media, investors, proxy advisory firms. You are having to deal with a bunch of people that you have never, your own board, you are having to deal with a bunch of stakeholders you have never encountered before. And and each of them comes with their own lens, and each of them have their own interests, and each of them have their own set of expectations. How do you really figure out how to deal with each of them and yet bring it all together and navigate it so that you're able to move yourself forward as well as the organization forward? These are hard shifts to make, Ajay. These are hard shifts to make. And it requires an openness, it requires a willingness to communicate, to engage. It requires breadth. And that is why one of the strong arguments I make in the book is, which may seem very naive in the age of today, that everyone is talking about deep tech and everybody is talking about super specialization and deep expertise. Yes, you require that, but think about it. Every single important breakthrough that you have seen around in the last 15, 20 years has actually come from people not with the deep domain expertise, but who were able to connect the dots and bring ideas from other sectors and industries to find that breakthrough. Look at NVIDIA, for example. It was making chips for video games, right? And what did that require? It required you to do several sets of calculations in parallel so that the video images in the games would move smoothly, which was very different from typical computer chips, which did sequential processing and therefore were focused on increasing the speed of processing. NVIDIA saw that for training AI models, you needed these parallel calculations of similar nature. And therefore, it flipped, and therefore it has become the force behind AI. Look at Tesla. They brought software mindset and technology mindset to the automobile industry. Steve Jobs himself was not a technologist. He brought marketing, psychology, design, and tech together in a way which no one has brought. So, yes, I think it is important to have super specialization, deep technology to execute and scale up things. But I think that the great innovations, which we will all have to focus on now because we are living in an era of disruption, the great innovations will come from people who have breadth of perspective, who read a lot, look at different domains, are able to see what's happening, connect the dots, and combine ideas in innovative fashions. So I think these are the skill sets which are going to be important in leadership for tomorrow.
Thank you so much for highlighting that. And in fact, I remember a famous book written a few years back called The Range. You know, it was written by
Yes.
a gentleman called David Epstein, not Jeffrey Epstein, but
Yes.
and then he, in fact, advocated the idea of you know, how deep generalists actually thrive in the specialist world. So I've been very much touching upon, you know, some of these things you said. So Mamta, just coming to you, that you engage a lot with the senior management and the boards. How do they see the whole capabilities of the CEOs and the CXOs today? Because, you know, they are all navigating through a very, very complex environment. There are geopolitical uncertainties, the regulatory challenges, and all sort of different organization issues. So if you can highlight maybe top 3 or 4 capabilities which are top of your mind, or how board evaluates the CXOs, you know, that should be really very helpful.
Sure. I think a very interesting question. The first one that comes to my mind immediately is, of course, integrity and transparency. I tell you, this quality is something which is sought after and is a rare commodity. So when we see in boards that when a presentation comes over and somebody is making a point, believe you me, the board members are also smart enough to understand whether the papers have been really made with integrity, and is the top management being represented by the CFO and the CXOs are making their point validly, or it's kind of a circumvening it around. So it's very important that to win the trust and confidence of the board, who are ultimately going to say a yes or a no, and going to delve deep into the subject, it's very important that the papers are made very neatly and the points are candidly put forward in front of the board meeting. Of course, when the points are put forward, they need to also be palatably put forward. That goes without saying. The second quality which I must say is the art of navigating communication and correspondences. You make a big error, for example, when you make a document or you talk about it. I'll just give you a small example. Choro, comma, mat maro. Choro, comma, mat maro. And let me just shift the comma. Choro mat, comma, maro. So with a small shift of an insignificant comma, I have actually topsy-turvied the entire sentence and the meaning of it. So therefore I say that the communication, the correspondences, the talking front, it makes a lot of difference. And the CXOs and the CFOs and even the company secretaries for that matter really should be very well trained as to how you are communicating with the board. And even the body language plays a lot of role. Though body language is something which we don't talk about much, but I feel when the presentation is made, it's very, very important that you show the confidence in your own home. We don't show confidence in our own documentation. You know, when some question, though uncomfortable, comes up, we start looking at the MD's face, or, you know, we start looking at the CFO's face, etc. Then that means that you yourself are not prepared and you're not confident, you don't own the documents. So the second quality is please own the documents, please own the information, own the papers. What weakness that I have seen is we work on it at the last moment. So that's one weakness that I want to point out, that whenever we are on that position, I think deep diving is very important. We should not just hush and prepare or make any documents. At that level, the weakness that I've formally seen is that we feel that our junior is good enough to do it, and I'll just wade it through in the meeting. I think that's not the way of doing it. And the third point that you wanted to talk about and I wanted to say is own your team. We just don't, you know, when we do a meeting, etc., we think that Ami Akai Aksho. I am the one who's the person and just can do anything that I want. My team is quite insignificant. Our earlier Gurucharan Das sir and sir was also talking that you really need to own your team. You know, you really need to keep them at a high pedestal, and you can scold them otherwise, but in front of the entire lot, we should not just go head on with the team, because then you disconnect forever. So these are few soft qualities. There are so much more, but I think I'll rest my case here for the moment.
I think it's a very, very important point, this whole ownership aspect you talked about. And I'm sure at that level there is, not much luxury to make mistakes, especially in the environment the CXOs are operating today.
And if you do make a mistake, because to err is human, I think we should have the courage and just come forward and say, oh, this has been an error. Just give me some time, I'll come back with the right documentation. But we don't do that actually.
Great. So, we are pretty much at the end of the session, and, we are pretty late here as well. So, Rupa, just to summarize, you talked about your leadership manifesto, right? If you just highlight that, what are your leadership manifestos, and how do you see that today's generation of leaders can really, adopt some of those points that you have highlighted here?
Right. So I'll keep it brief. I know it's late. I'm standing between everyone and dinner. And there is a manifesto which is much more detailed than what I'm saying here. But if you were to ask me what my biggest leadership learning has been over the years, and it is about understanding that leadership doesn't mean that you have to have all the answers. Leadership is actually about knowing how to ask the right questions and creating the space for other people to shine. I think it's a journey. It comes over time. In the context of modern leadership, we have to understand that the world has changed, and so has leadership. No longer are we in a command and control era. No longer are we, when I started working way back in the mid-1980s, I will just paint a picture, of what the workspace looked like. We rarely, if ever, saw our CEO. Sometimes we would see him near the elevator, and it was typically a him. Nobody spoke to young joinees or young employees about what the strategy of the company was. There were no town halls. Your promotions or increments got communicated to you with a letter which landed up on your table. If you wanted to communicate with someone outside your city, you walked up to a room where there was a person called a telex operator, and you dictated your message and he typed it across and sent it. You needed permission, and I was in the public sector unit at that organization, IDBI, at that point in time, and we needed permission from our manager to make an outstation call because they were so expensive, right? And so contrast that with a CEO and the leadership environment of today, where the CEO probably sits in an open office. You don't have to go through a secretary to access. You can directly send them an email. The workforce expects constant communication. They expect feedback. They see themselves as equal partners in the journey of the organization, not people who are going to be dictated to, but people whose opinions are sought, people whose views are taken into account. That is the expectation of the workforce. They are watching very closely to see, is the leadership people we can trust? Do they walk the talk? And I think leadership therefore has to reflect the changes in the workforce. They have to reflect the changes in society. We can't just dismiss by saying that, oh, they lack a sense of purpose, or they care about other things outside work. You are very focused. I think the leaders have to adapt more to this changing reality. And that, I would think, has been my biggest journey, learning. And I think it's been an arc from starting working with a public sector lender, visiting factory floors as a part of my day-to-day job in evaluating projects, and being probably the only woman in the space at that point in time, to this whole, when India liberalized and opened up, moving to the open economy, where we were opened up to global competition and had to learn how to survive, bringing in new ideas into India. And the third decade, or the third stage of my career, which was in tech startups, which was really bringing the power of technology and innovation to democratize access to products and services for the bottom 60% of India's population. And I think that's really the arc that has been captured in this book. And that's really what the manifesto that I have laid out in the book reflects, Ajit.
Very interesting, very interesting. So are you working on any new idea for your next book?
You know, I say one step at a time, and anyone who asks me this question, I tell them, look, the biggest motivation for an author is if people read their book and give feedback. So please first read my first book, tell me what you think about it, and maybe that will motivate me to think about writing my next one.
Sure, I think we will record this whole session, and once the viewers will see it, they would be inspired to read your books. So with this, I will close this session. Rupa Kudwa, thank you so much for joining from Mumbai virtually, and I'm hoping your speedy recovery. Next time, we would like to have you here. And thank you, Mamta, for your very interesting perspective and complementing the whole discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Ajay, for that riveting conversation, as well as Rupa Kudwa and Mamta Binani. May I now request Anirban Chaudhary, consulting editor TV9 Bangla, to kindly come on stage to felicitate Mamta Binani. Thank you very much, everyone. And with that, we have come to the end of day one, and it's time now for dinner. But before we do that, let's quickly tell you that this is just the day one, and there is a lot to come as far as day two of Business and Economy Literature Festival is concerned, with presenting sponsor EIILM, Curation Ideation Partner Story Nest, Knowledge Partner Penguin, Associate Sponsor Barmer Lorry, ChatGPT, Alliance Broadband, UEM, Priyo Gopal Bishnoi, Mukhoro Chok, Tata Structure, and DBS. Our partners, Policy Bazaar, our print partner, Barthaman, our writing partner, Parker, our media partner, Business Standard, and industry partner, BCCI. With that, it's the end of day one. We have a lot more lined up for you on day two. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Merry Christmas, Grandpa.
Macaroons. She used to love macaroons. How can I eat this without her?
Merry Christmas, Grandpa.
Parker, the right gift.
Thank you.
It's anti-proof.
And I know that you were supposed to be with us, but unfortunately, Rupa was not well, so she couldn't make it this time, but she was gracious enough to join this session virtually. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me